After 36 hours of racing over the season and 830 laps, the Blancpain Endurance Series reaches its final round here at Navarra in northern Spain, with all the championships still to be decided, be them for drivers or for teams. And this next 3 hours promises to be another fabulous race, not only with the championship situation, but also with what the weather may throw at us. We've had a bit of rain this morning. There are some big black leaden clouds on their way, and the team's fearing they're going to have a very wet race, or an increasingly wet race, as we work our way through the 3 hours. The grid, 41 cars lined up, ready to go. David Addison and Haley Coxon trackside, looking forward to seeing who is going to be crowned as just the second ever Blancpain Endurance Series champion. In the Pro Cup, Bas Linders, Maxime Martin and Marcus Pautela have just 3 points in hand over Christopher Hauser, Christopher Mies and Stefan Ortelli. Andrea Piccini is next on 62 points, but he's not here this weekend. Mark Goossens, Mark Henrici and Xavier Marson are squabbling against Edward Sandstrom and Laurens Van Toor. Again, just 3 points between them, although the Porsche of the Marks and Xavier Marson did not have a good qualifying and finds itself way back on the grid. It's all up for grabs as well within Pro-Am, and this is where Nick Homerson and Louis Machiels take on Eugenio Amos, Alessandro Bonicini and Giacomo Petrobelli. Andrea Bertolini, who has driven this year with Homerson and Machiels, is absent this weekend. He is racing in Japan. He also missed the Silverstone round because he was busy on the Le Mans test. That's why he's got a different number of points. So it's between the AF Corsa and the Vita 4-1 Team Italy Ferraris, with the Sofred Ferrari of Ludovic Padet, Patrice Guélard and Jean-Luc Bobelic an outside bet for second. As far as Pierre Hershey and Robert Hissam are concerned in the Gentleman Trophy, effectively all they need to do is finish to win the class in the championship. They're ahead of Michael Bender and Jan Brunstedt, who are joined this weekend not by Jochen Mangs but by Daniel Roos. Daniel De Bruer and Christian Kelder's run third. They've not done the full season, but they've gone very quickly when they have raced. Indeed, they have taken 2 wins. Well, let's hear from some of the drivers going into this race. Let's start with Robert Hissam. He's on the grid with Haley.
Robert, starting from the back of the grid, it's not exactly the start you would have wanted for the final race, but all you have to do to take the title is finish. Can you do it?
Well, I think so. It's unfortunate to start at the back, but if we can bring it back in one piece, we should be able to do it. But it'll be a good race. There's a lot of championship fall fighting in the last positions here, so it should be good.
Thank you.
And why is Robert Hissam at the back of the grid? He had a 5-place grid drop because the car was found to have crossed the white line at pit exit, and the stewards decided that for that contravention of the regulation, so 5 places the car would have to drop on the grid. Others have suffered a 5-place grid drop for speeding in the pit lane, and others for crossing the white line at pit in. So the race officials have been very keen this weekend to make sure that the white lines, the safety lines in and out of the pit lane, are not crossed, because that can be dangerous, and so you've got people tumbling down the order. And another car that tumbles down the order as you look at 58, the double class winning Porsche, Christian Kelder's to start on the grid there. Another car that will tumble down the order is significant in the championship, the number 3 Mark VDS Racing Team. That has a 10-place grid drop carried over from the Nürburgring, where the car was involved in an incident in qualifying with the number 2 Audi, and so it's carried over to this round, and it means that the BMW starts 15th on the grid. Well, there is the grid, busy with the VIPs at the front at the moment, having their grid walk. They are making their way into the pit lane. That's the back of the grid. You can see the Santilok Audi. You've just been hearing from the driver of it, Robert Hissam, right at the very back. And just ahead and to the left is the AF Corsa Ferrari that Yannick Malagol, Jean-Marc Bachelier and Howard Blank share. Yannick Malagol will go first in that car. News from the grid is that Michael Mallock, who's making his GT3 debut, driving for DB Motorsport in one of their BMW Z4s, had an engine drama yesterday. That's been changed overnight, ready for qualifying this morning. So Michael Mallock looking to make his GT3 debut, but with this new engine. Let's go back to the grid and hear from some of the Pro-Am drivers. Alessandro Bonicini fighting for the crown. Haley, all yours.
Alessandro, the battle of the Ferraris is on. Can you take the title here this weekend?
Yeah, it's a very strong weekend, because now we are close to our competitors, and we are trying to do the best to gain the championship, but you know, it's really difficult. The weather, the car, the other drivers, it's amazing. I'm really excited now.
Thank you.
And Giacomo Petrobelli is already strapped into the car, ready to do the first stint. And when I saw him at the airport on the way out, he was saying he was pretty nervous because he was hoping he could have wrapped up the championship at the Nürburgring. That car and its key rival both got involved in a similar incident. They found a very slow car ahead going into turn 1. each had to take evasive action, each ended up off the road and with damage and out of the race. So it has taken the championship to this round, just as it has in the Pro Cup. So we're lined up for some great battles, not just on track, and I'll come to one or two of the interlopers in a few moments, but also within the championship. 3 hours, everybody has to make 2 mandatory pit stops, and tyres must be changed, as well as the drivers within those pit stops. If you have a free driver car, if you've got 2 drivers, then the gentleman racer must do 1 hour and 50 minutes as the maximum driving time. Now, we've heard from one of the Pro-Am Championship contenders. Louis Machiels is another driver who could well leave Spain as the champion. He's on the grid with Haley.
Louis, will you be the fastest Ferrari on the grid today?
Well, we'll see. You know, in 3 hours we'll know. It's just, it's a normal race, so we'll just see what happens.
Thank you.
So Louis Machiels, who shares, as ever, with Nick Homerson, but also for this weekend with Alessandro Piegvidi, who drove with them to win the class in the Spa 24 Hours. Andrea Bertolini, who is normally to be found in that car in the last stint, racing in Japan this weekend, so not able to be here. But Alessandro Piegvidi is a very, very quick driver indeed. He set the qualifying time in that car. And there is a car leading the Pro Cup. Bas Leinders goes first in the Mark VDS BMW. 3 points they have in hand over Christopher Haase, Christopher Mies and Stefan Ortelli, but they start 15th on the grid, and it is not going to be easy. The car having had a lot of damage done to it when it was punted off at the Nürburgring. Remember, Marcus Pautala was hit by Dino Lenardi in the Santalot Audi. See Martin leaving the grid, the car is there ready to go. But what progress is going to be made early on by Bas Leinders. 41 cars heading into the first sequence of corners, which tightens all the way round, is going to be a real scrum. You've got a kink, a corner and a hairpin, and it is possible to overtake, but it's not easy. But keeping out of trouble through that first sequence is going to be key. Well, let's hear from Bas Leinders. He's strapped into the BMW. Is he going to be champion? Haley will find out.
Bas, at the start of the season, you started at 18th in Monza and you're still able to take a win. Can you do it today?
Well, that was in the rain, of course. Here it will be a lot more difficult, but we do our best. We just do a race that's normal. We can only do our best and then see where we end up.
Thank you.
Bas Leinders being fairly tight-lipped about it, saying we can only treat it as a normal race, but they're fully aware of the championship situation, and effectively they can get away with being 1 place behind the WRT Audi. We'll worry more about the championship situation as we get going, but if they finish on the same number of points at the end of the season, the BMW team has got more wins, so they would win on a tie-break. There is a little bit more to it than that, though. Effectively, whoever were to win within that class would be champion, but then if you look at the lower places and where people finish, it gets a little bit more complicated. It's going to be intriguing, this. It's not just for the race, but for the championship as well. Stéphane Rattel, Laurent Gaudin and Michel Ligonnet there. Laurent Gaudin is the man who runs the series on behalf of SRO, and Michel Ligonnet, ex-GT racer himself, is the man that runs the circuit here at Navarra. So Christopher Mies is another potential champion in the Pro Cup. He is one of the Audi drivers, and he's on the grid with Haley.
Christopher, you're certainly starting in a strong position. Can you take the championship today?
Yeah, I mean, we're in a good position. We are actually P5 and our competitors are P15, so at least we have to score 4 points more in the championship. I hope we have a good start. There are 2 strong McLarens behind us, but we will see what happens.
Thank you.
So Christopher Mies ready to go. Now let's just look at the front of the grid for a moment, because it has a rather unusual look to it. A Hexis McLaren, not seen one of those in Blancpain this year, and the Blancpain Lamborghini. Well, we have seen that car, we've seen it when it's class, but this weekend, there it is, on the outside of the front row, the Blancpain Reiter Lamborghini goes into the Pro Cup. Mark Hayek is here, but not racing. Instead, Peter Cox is joined by Jos Menton and Stefan Rossina, and Cox and Rossina won at the Nürburgring in the qualifying race in the GT1 World Championship. This is a car from the GT1 Championship, converted to Blancpain spec for the weekend because the regular chassis not repaired after its big whack that Mark Hayek suffered at the Nürburgring. But that's the car on pole position to be started by Alvaro Parent, Hexis McLaren, which Fred Makovici, who set the qualifying time, and Stef Dusseldorp, who is the third driver of the car, took to 2 wins here in the GT1 races back in the early part of the summer. So that is a car that certainly goes well around here, but this weekend runs on Michelin tyres rather than the regulation Pirellis from the GT1 World Championship. It's another thing to factor into this intriguing 3 hours. The race director, Rui Marquez, is on the grid waving the green flag to release the cars onto the formation lap. It's a rolling start. They don't stop on the grid, of course, they go straight into the race, and then we will be in business for the last round of what has been a superb championship. Full grid, great racing, and a fascinating battle is about to get underway. We've had some fascinating people on the grid over the course of the season, not just professional racing drivers, former F1 drivers, Le Mans winners, you've had celebrity chefs, you've had stuntmen, wealthy gentlemen racers, a real mix of people within the Blancpain Endurance Series family. 6 races we've had this year. Next year the plan is for 5, but it will keep the Spa 24 Hours as its showpiece event. For now, as you look at the 98 Audi of JB Motorsport, started by the JB element of the team, Jan Brunstedt, the former historic racer, man with his own aviation business, the pilot. He goes in the Gentleman Trophy up towards turn 2 at the moment. We are set for this last round of the series. And is it going to be a win for the Hexis Racing McLaren? You've got that car and the Lamborghini at the front of the field in Pro Cup, potentially, therefore, taking points away from the Audi and BMW combinations looking to win the championship. But Audi has a trump card, potentially, in this, and that is that the Belgian Audi Club Team WRT, as you look at the grid scrolling through, has got a 3rd car. Philippe Albuquerque starts, Oliver Jarvis and Frank Stippler are the other drivers, and that, of course, is aimed at, again, helping the number 1 car take the championship. You're looking at the grid run through now. Very good effort in qualifying from the McLaren of ART. Duncan Tappy putting it onto the Pro-Am pole position. Rob Bell starting in the Gulf livery of McLaren, as ever, will be one to watch. In the Mark VDS number 4 BMW, there's no Mike Hazelmans this weekend, as you look at the car there, making its way through shot. Mike Hazelmans busy on his day job commitments, in other words, business duties have kept him out of the car. Nick Katzberg steps in instead. Nick drove for the team in those older 24 Hours, and he gets a chance now at racing with Mark VDS in the Blancpain Series. Avis Guillard, one to watch in the Pro-Am Cup. Michael Mallock in number 36, the BMW that's going to be started by Nicky Meyer-Melnhof, we are told, switching away from the regular seat that he has at Vita 4-1, which is here with his regular car, Matthias Lauda, going first. So the field turning its way up towards the end of the lap. You can see in the background one of the 2 pit-in lanes, and that is down at turn 13, a 2nd gear hairpin, 65 kilometres an hour, speed building once again. Turn 14 is a very fast flat-out kink, and then it's hard on the brakes down, in some cars even to 1st gear for the last corner, just under 70 kilometres an hour, and then onto the pit straight. The race shortly to get underway, as on the front row then you've got Alvaro Perent starting in the McLaren, and he lines up alongside Stefan Rossina in the Lamborghini. The 2nd row of the group, Gregoire de Moustier and Philippe Albuquerque, McLaren and Audi respectively. 3 hours of racing, the last round of the championship gets underway. The lights go out, they fan out as they work their way up towards turn 1. The road climbs uphill, 4 wide, lower down the order, and diving up on the inside, Gregoire de Moustier in the ART McLaren tries to grab the lead, but Perent it is that hangs on to it. De Moustier tries to slot in behind him. Now the road tightens, there's one BMW running out way wide. It's one of the DB Motorsport cars, the Malek Meyer-Melnhof car. There's a Mercedes doing likewise in the background. And this is how busy it is as you ride on board the number 1 Audi for the first time as they drop downhill. They've all just about survived that first few corners. Yes, a few have gone wide, but there's been no real damage. And Bas Linders in number 3 is trying to work his way through traffic. You're on board with the BMW now. Bas Linders turning his way out of turn 6, trying to find a way past the Audis. And you can see that the Audi team know exactly what it has to do, keep that BMW at bay. There is number 4, the sister car. Bert Langevin at the wheel and in danger of losing a place there because he's being attacked by Dino Lenardi. And Mark VDS and Santalok have got a bit of previous, haven't they, after the Nürburgring. Down the back straight they come then, heading towards turn 9. 2nd gear, another tight hairpin here. And again, people trying to be heroes up on the inside. And there's 52, one of the Pro-Am class championship protagonist cars, the AF Corsa Ferrari. Louis Macchiels at the wheel as they work their way on lap 1 of 3 hours of racing, and being hung out to dry there was number 3 Bas Linders, forced wide as he tried to attack the Audi. It didn't pay off for him though. Towards the end of lap number 1, overtaking not easy around here. You've really got to be bold, you've got to force the issue, and there is Bas Linders stuck at the moment behind the number 19 Mercedes. Steve Jans going first, there's Maxime Martin looking a bit pensive. We know how quick he is, but even he will find it hard to overtake around here. There aren't that many opportunities. But if anybody can make the car gain ground, it is Max. Over the timing line at the end of the first lap of the race then, it is Alvaro Perent leading from Stefan Rossina. Matthias Lauda runs 3rd and Nico Verdonk 4th. And what progress, if any, has Bas Linders made? Well, from 15th to 12th at the end of lap 1. Number 5, you can see Nico Verdonk in the Boutsen-Gignon McLaren, and he's looking for a way past Matthias Lauda. Behind them is Gregoire de Moustier. Made a good start, went for the inside, couldn't make progress from there. He slipped to 5th. Philippe Albuquerque is 6th. And then, of course, of those cars fighting for the championship at the moment, 9th is where you find Christopher Mies, and only 12th is Bas Leinders. But it's not just the overall position we've got to concern ourselves with, it is the class situation. And within that group, there are 3 Pro-Am cars that you can discount, and therefore, of course, in real terms, within Pro Cup. So Bas Leinders moves up the order. It's class points he's bothered about, not necessarily the overall situation. He looks to the inside to get past Steve Janssen. The Luxembourg driver goes wide, the BMW alongside, but the Mercedes fights back. Look at this, he's got the grunt in a straight line, and Bas Leinders has to watch the Mercedes come back at him and retake the place. Great battling this. The Mercedes fends off the BMW. Bas Leinders again goes for the inside line as they work their way out of turn 9. He's alongside. He's got the inside line going into turn 10, but it's the outside line for turn 11, and he still can't find a way through. Right up behind him is Mark Henrici in the Porsche. They're nose to tail. Mercedes fending off BMW. They're in different classes, of course. Leinders tries to find a way through, and he still can't do it. You see the problems of overtaking around here, and now Leinders is under attack because Mark Henrici in the Porsche is right on his tail. Bas Leinders in this invidious situation, trying to attack and defend at the same time. We're getting news that off the road has gone the other Pro Speed Porsche in the hands of Dylan Deerdalen, and also number 40, Dino Lunardi. They've had a drama at turn 15. In other words, the last corner at the end of the first lap of the race. I think, yes, the Santilok Audi, I can see in the distance, is in the gravel, looking as though that's going no further. And the Porsche is stuck there as well. So you've got 2 cars off the road at the last corner. Meantime, this is turn 3 as the leaders work their way out of the hairpin. The only Gulf McLaren here this weekend is that of Mike Wainwright, but it's Rob Bell starting, and he's trying to make progress at the moment. 8 going over the timing line was Rob Bell, and there Marshall's having to pick up bits of GT car. That's down at turn 15. And the circuit needing to be cleared. As I say, Audi and Porsche off into the gravel. Don't think we're going to need the safety car. Oh, and another one has gone, and that's 33. Porsche Eric Dermont has had a big hit into the barriers. See the damage on the front of the car, and Eric Dermont off the road, and he's out of the car and he's out of the race. So 33 is a retirement straight away with damage. And where's he gone off? He's gone a long way off through the gravel, but that car going no further. It's at turn 1, in fact. Turn 1, right at the start of the lap. And there's a lot of runoff even before you get to the gravel. So Eric Dermont off in a pretty big way there as you look here at the DV Motorsport BMW trying to hang on to its place down towards the tight second gear, turn 9. It's 37 BMW, which is started by Jochen Habetz, and right up behind is 51, the Venezuelan driver Caetano Ardania, looking for a way by. The ex-Maserati Trofeo racer, he can't find a way through. 42 going strongly, that's Kevin Despinas, the ex-Clio Cup France racer, just ahead at the moment of the 18 Frankie Cheng driven Mercedes, which has really struggled this weekend. It went so well, remember, finishing second at the Nürburgring, but the team just could not get a clear lap in qualifying. The leaders go through. Alvaro Parent is continuing to pull away now, 2 seconds clear of Stefan Rossina in second place, and there Matthias Lauda is under real pressure now. Nico Verdonk is right up behind him, and Gregoire de Moustier closing up as well in the ART McLaren. You can see Eric Dermont's Porsche well off in the background. At that part of the circuit, having got to where he is, you kind of get the feeling he may have been helped into that, but either way he's out of the race and going no further as the McLaren battle shapes up now. De Moustier looking for a way past Verdonk, who was a winner here last year in a Ferrari when he drove for Vita 4-1. We've not really had a chance to see the best out of Nico Verdonk this year. He was going strongly at Spa before he got attacked by the similar McLaren in the hands of Klaus Hummel and put both cars out of the race. But here he's keeping Gregoire de Moustier at bay and trying to go with Matthias Lauda as well, the ex-Mercedes DTM racer, keeping the young Belgian at bay. There is Alvaro Parent, McLaren factory driver, leading the way. And that is the battered Santilok Audi. Damaged bodywork, damaged front left suspension by the look of it, being towed out of the gravel at turn 15 and out of the race seemingly. Von Ryan McLaren switching sides as it tries to gain ground, diving down towards turn 9, and that takes a place away from Bert Langevin. The Von Ryan McLaren in the hands of Stephen Jelly starting, and Stephen, we know, is very quick from his days in Formula 3 and touring cars and the Porsche Carrera Cup GB, so he's worked away past Bert Langevin, who in turn has got behind him the 52 Ferrari of Louis Mathias. Now, how does 52 shape up against 57? 57, Giacomo Petrobelli is ahead at the moment, which is looking good for the championship, but we'll worry more about points when things start to settle down. Complicated enough in the Pro Cup. Pro-Am is even more so. Leaders go through. The gap this time around between the top 2 is getting wider, because last time around Alvaro Parent again laps quicker than Stefan Rossina. And the Hexus McLaren, many people's tip for a win, is looking very strong at the moment, although yesterday he did go off the road and cause a red flag in pre-qualifying. Had a traction control issue. and off the road went Fred Makovici, but this morning he did a blinding lap for pole position. Now there is Bas Linders in the number 3 BMW. He's dropped back, in fact, 1 place, because you can see Mark Henrici is ahead of him. So Bas Linders is down to 13th, but there's an element of keeping out of trouble at the moment. Where's the championship opposition? 9th overall is where you find the number 1 Audi, Christopher Mies, the wheel of it. And there are 3 Pro-Am cars ahead of the pair. So again, in terms of their class position, they move up 3. That is a Porsche with a lot of damage, isn't it? You can see the witness marks on the left-hand side of the bodywork, but also broken suspension. The radiator would have been done, looking at the damage at the front as well. So Eric Dermont is out of the race, and that will, of course, therefore deny Antoine Leclerc a chance to get behind the wheel at all. This McLaren fight keeps gaining McLarens. Nico Verdonk and Gregoire de Musquier have now got the similar car of Rob Bell tucked up behind them, and number 20 Ferrari in the hands of Patrice Gouillard ahead of Louis Machiels. There's a BMW trying to join in that mix as well of Jochen Haberts, and there's 36 Nicky Marmelhoff already there, so great little squabble this. And 51 Gaetano Ardagna in the STP cars in the mix. That's Haberts going way wide. He's got it wrong under braking going to turn 11. There's loads of escape road around there, so he's okay. Threads his way back onto the circuit, but he's lost a few places as a result of all of that. There's Ardagna in the car that he shares with Giuseppe Chiro and Dan Brown, a very, very rapid, if underrated, young British driver. They've been really short of luck this year. Certainly there's been very little good luck going their way. They're deserving of a good result, and they're on the tail of the AF Corsa team car in the hands of Louis Machiels, coming up over the timing line. At the start of the lap, Machiels was in 17th place, and he's dropped down to 18th now, but making some progress is the 51 Ferrari, also in this group. 36 Nicky Marmelhoff, who works his way through. He's now up into 18th spot, and Kevin Despinas there, the young French driver in the Sport Garage Ferrari, trying to gain places as well. Well, let's catch up with what's going on for Marc VDS. Maxime Martin will have a view on this, and he's in the pits with Haley.
Max, sadly it looks like the BMW is losing pace on the straight, is that correct?
Yes, for sure. It's a little bit the weakness of the car, and in the traffic like this it's always difficult to pass, and we get past in the straight. I think on one lap the car is really quick, so yeah, we will see. It's 3 hours, it's long, but no, I think we have the good pace to come back in front.
Thank you.
We gather it was a mechanical problem that put number 33 off the road, so it wasn't contact, it wasn't driver error, something perhaps broke and caused the car to head off the road. So that's why that Porsche was off. We've heard from Maxime Martin. Yesterday they had a lot of work to do on the number 3 BMW to do with the brakes. Maxime Martin's style of driving, and he is the fastest of the 3, is to carry a huge amount of speed into the corners, and they were really struggling to get that car to work for him, and they had to carry on that work into qualifying this morning. If they've got to the bottom of it, then the car should go much more strongly when we get to that last stint. Over the timing line goes the McLaren fight, Verdonk, de Musquier, and then Rob Bell. It is still Alvaro Perret leading the way from Stefano Rossina. And the number 1, Christopher Mies, Audi, running in 9th place overall, but really 7th in class. And Bas Linders is 13th overall and 10th in class. And if things were to stay like that, Audi would win the championship. They're not going to stay like that, I'm convinced of it. Things will happen in the next 2 hours and 49 minutes. So the championship situation is going to ebb and flow for different teams as the 3 hours of the race unwinds. Now there is the 3rd Audi for the weekend, Felipe Albuquerque. And as Vincent Voss was saying to me this morning, there is the team's championship to think about as well, but very definitely that car is here to try and help number 1 to take the championship. So it's unlikely that's going to be a winning car. If that had to be sacrificed to put number 1 into the lead, it would happen, no question. Audi having already, of course, won the Nürburgring 24 hours this year, as well as Le Mans. Then, of course, in the Blancpain Endurance Series, it won the Spa 24 hours, and it would like some more titles to add to the success rate before the end of the year. Rob Bell looking for a way past Gregoire de Musquier, but you can see how difficult it is to overtake around here. We know how fast Rob is, but he cannot yet find a way past de Musquier. The two of them are nose to tail here as they go through the flat kink, turn 14, 4th gear. 185 kilometres an hour, and then it's hard on the brakes. Some cars down to first, others down to second for this last corner, and then some drivers describe it almost from a standing start. You're back on the power and up this long, long pit straight. Go over the timing line. Under the gantries, just got Magnus Lauer in the BMW. Then the road starts to climb uphill, heading towards turns 1, 2 and 3. The kink, corner and hairpin sequence, and Verdonk looking for a way past Lauda. The BMW howls its way up towards the braking zone, and Verdonk could barely be any closer, could he now? brakes so late going into turn 3, and in fact they're not that far behind and are catching Stefan Rossina in the Lamborghini. The Donk pulls out, pulls back in again, has a look to get past Lauda. This is the fight for third place. They're heading up towards turn 6, second gear, 85 kilometres an hour through the left, and if you get that wrong, it compromises you all the way through the next couple of corners onto the back straight. Matthias Lauda then running third. Frank Kechler, his co-driver, winner here last year. Let's hear from him now with Haley.
Frank, it's looking like the BMW can close the gap on the Lamborghini. Can he take the second position?
Yeah, Matthias did a really good start and has a good pace now. Of course, we have the strong McLarens behind us as well. They are really strong on the straight, so he has a big job to do to keep them behind him. And yeah, I hope we can catch up the Lambo and finally overtake him. Won't be easy for Matthias, but so far he's doing a great job, yeah.
Thank you.
Interestingly, the race director has just declared this a wet race. It isn't yet raining, but it may well be soon. But what he's doing is putting the onus now on the teams to make the decision on tyres. In other words, he is not going to take any intervention to help them put the cars onto a different set of tyres if the weather conditions change. There is Gaetano Ardagna under real pressure still from Kevin Despanas in the Ferrari, and they've got Frankie Cheng right up behind them in the Mercedes. Good little squabble this going on for 19th, 20th and 21st places. And what's happened out of all of this to Nick Hommerson? In fact, yes, Hommerson has gained a place, hasn't he? The black AF Corsa Ferrari has moved ahead of Ardagna, who runs out wide, and Despanas pounces past him. So that switches those Ferraris around, and Frankie Cheng in the Mercedes hoping to take advantage of that, as over the curb and onto the dirt goes Ardagna. Cheng, the Chinese driver, lines up to the inside at turn 15 and he goes through. The Black Falcon Mercedes gains another place. A bad lap that for Gaetano Ardagna, who will drop outside the top 20. Over the line goes 36, Nicky Marmelhoff, recovering after his big accident at Donington in the GT1 final round. This is how the championship looks at the moment. It would go the way of Haase, Mies and Ortelli by 2 points over Leinders, Martin and Paltela if things stay as they are. If. That's the Pro Cup you're looking at, so that is how things would be. Wipers on, look for the Mercedes of Frankie Cheng. Looking into the crowd, I can see 1 or 2 umbrellas going up, and more people heading into the grandstand for cover. And we've got a problem for the Porsche 58, the Gentleman Trophy car. Christian Kelders and Daniel Davrouet, double winner this year. That's the Exegon Engineering car, coming up over the timing line very slowly. It's missed pit in. It's just gone past our window, and I can't see any drama with that car. The yellow flag waves there to warn everybody behind that there is a slow car. Is it a puncture? Is it a suspension problem? It sits a bit low on one corner, and look now, the number of cars with the wipers on. So although it's not that wet where we are on the start and finish line, perhaps around the circuit it is becoming a bit more damp and therefore more slippery, and this is going to make things very interesting indeed. We had a rather wet Q2 this morning, and it was only Matthias Lauda in the Vita 4.1 BMW who braved it out for a few more laps over everybody else on a wet road just to gain some data. Vincent Voss, part of the Team WRT management, along with Pierre Giordone, which is on, sees how the race is developing for his cars that currently are running 7th, 9th and 10th. And now that it has been declared a wet race, all the cars have to switch on their lights, and there, limping round with possibly a left rear puncture or left rear broken suspension, is Christian Kelders, but he's gone a lap down. I think it's certainly the left rear corner, but that car is going to lose a lap at the very least. And the other problem is he may be doing damage by trying to drag it back round, so that car's going to be out of contention seemingly within the Gentleman Trophy. Kevin Despanas going better than we've seen all year here. He's now up into 20th place, and Verdonk has got past Lauda. And the Porsche gets sideways. Oh, round goes Kelders, trying to keep out of trouble. You can see the tyre has gone down, and that lose came at turn 8, the second gear corner. Now he's beached on the curb. It's all going from bad to worse, and thankfully none of the leaders got involved with that. So to catch up quickly on things, Verdonk has got past Lauda. We thought he was catching the Lamborghini, but he's actually lost a place, and now Christian Kelders is beached on the curb. The Porsche for the moment going nowhere. There's Bas Leinders still running in 13th place on the back of Mark Henrici. Now, if that car can't get going, is that going to have to bring out a safety car? We'll see. But for the moment, that Porsche is stuck, and right on the inside of the corner is not a good place to be. Now, this is how we look within Pro Cup still. It's the same situation as a lap or so ago. Still 2 points in hand for Haase, Mies and Ortelli over Leinders, Martin and Paltela. Bear that in mind as you watch things shuffle around within the leading group here, because although we've had a place change between McLaren and BMW, that doesn't do enough to affect the championship. What is interesting is the way that the Porsche Kechler Lauda BMW creeps into the mix as well. That would go on 68 points if things were to stay as they are. And McLarens are side by side there. Look, as Rob Bell tries to force the issue, and he has got past Gregoire de Moustier. Now, Rob Bell there, number 9 in the Gulf. McLaren is up into the top 5, and his next target is Matthias Lauda, who, since the track became slippery, seems to be struggling more than those around him. He's lost a place and he's losing ground. Felipe Albuquerque, former Race of Champions winner, is gaining places as well. And this is Baz Linder's view at the back. Mark Henrici's tail lights stab on there. And Henrici in turn looks for a way past Steve Jans, and he goes wide at turn 6. Linders tries to duck up the inside of him, but he can't get through. They're on slicks, remember, and the road is getting wetter and more greasy. Mark Henrici stabbing on and off the brakes. He tries to slow the car down for turn 8, second gear corner. And look in the background, Christian Kelders looks as though he's going no further. You can see a flatbed making its way around the perimeter of the circuit, presumably to try to get to that car. But how easy is it going to be to get that out of harm's way as Linders still hunts for a way to get past Henrici. You're on board now, wipers on for Baz Linders down towards turn 11. Second gear, 66 kilometres an hour or thereabouts, and he swings his way left. Henrici in turn is on the back of Steve Jans, the young Luxembourg driver who did a really good job at the Nürburgring. And there you can see is the Vita 4-1 team. They've got the wet tyres ready. They've got Vita 4-1 and Vita 4-1 Team Italy in adjoining garages. So BMW or Ferrari to have tyres switched around. It may well be for the Ferrari of Giacomo Petrovelli, the bronze Grady driver in the Pro-Am Cup. But we'll keep an eye to who, if anybody, comes into the pit lane. I still think Lauda would be advised to come in because he's really struggling now as up the inside charges Rob Bell, and he goes storming past, heading up towards turn 1. Another place gained for Bell, and Rossina is under real pressure. Nico Verdonk in the McLaren, he's right on the tail of the Lamborghini. This for second place, the Lamborghini fending off the McLaren, but for how much longer? Up front, Alvaro Parent continues to lead. And dare one suggest at the moment this is looking like a McLaren race, and we haven't been able to say that all season. The cars really struggled at Monza at the start of the year. They got better progressively over the season, and now the Hexis car leads, and the Boutsen Gignon car getting better than we have seen all season. As back into the race goes 49, Yannick Malagol, who's made a pit stop. There's Bell ahead of Lauda, ahead of de Moustier. This now is 4th and 5th and 6th. Another place lost then for Lauda. Rob Bell having worked his way past him on this lap out of shot. As down towards us comes Rossina just ahead of Verdonk. And now de Moustier tries to make a move on Lauda in the background as there. Lamborghini and McLaren slither their way out of turn 9, nose to tail. What's got on behind? Did Lauda go through the corner? Let's just check. There's Rossina, there is Verdonk. And then there is Bell. And there is Lauda making contact with de Moustier, and behind you've got Felipe Albuquerque, and he in turn has got Daniel Zampieri behind him as de Moustier goes wide. Albuquerque dives at the inside, and Zampieri tries to go through as well, and he gets by. Utterly hung out to dry, Gregoire de Moustier, who tumbles down the order. You can overtake around here, there's the evidence, but it did take a little bit of rubbing to trigger all of that. Lauda fends off the McLaren, and it's de Moustier that drops down the order, but they're staying out, because at the moment the slick tyres, remember, have got enough temperature in them to work on a slippery track, and if you come in now and go onto wet, the circuit is just not wet enough for them. You do more damage to the tyres by running wets on this still semi-dry road. It's better to stay out on slicks for the moment. They've got enough temperature in them to be working properly still, as Rossina fends off Verdonk, who's getting stronger and stronger as his stint wears on here. Alvaro Parent, the race leader, is now involved in traffic, but this is the battle for second place. Lamborghini versus McLaren as they drop downhill. Heading towards turn 5, 4th gear, 150 kilometres an hour, and the corner tightens. Then the road climbs a little bit, and it's down to 2nd for turn 6 as Parent works his way through traffic. There is 41 up from the back of the grid, Robert Hissam, who is now in 35th place overall, at 2nd in the Gentleman Trophy behind Jan Brunstedt. That's enough to give him the championship, though. Looks as though we're going to be down to 2 finishers, of course, with the demise of the Porsche. The Lamborghini then running strongly in 2nd, and Jos Menton is going to have a stint in that car. Welcome back to Blancpain, Jos. He is with Haley.
Jos, how long do you think you're going to have to wait until you come in to change those tyres?
It seems like it stopped again raining, so we're not coming in. And if you see the sector times are also good.
And are you going to be able to hold off that McLaren?
We hope so.
Thank you.
So the teams are ready with the tyres, just in case, but as you've heard Jos Menton saying, it's not wet enough to use them, but the teams have got to have them on standby just in case. And now, of course, these battles we've been looking at are going to be affected by Lapri. The Emile Frey Jaguar is being negotiated. Lawrence Frey, the grandson of Emile Frey, starts in that car. Rossina gets past him, and Rossina therefore gaps Nico Verdonk. But look at Rob Bell in the Gulf McLaren in the background, bearing down on them over the timing line. They also put a lap on Leon Price and the Von Ryan Racing McLaren. Right, is this Verdonk's chance to go for second place? Rossina defends. The Slovakian is on the inside and right round the outside goes Verdonk. Great move, heading up towards turns 1 and 2. He's got to get the car slowed down for turn 3 of the hairpin, and he's done it. Really good move that by Verdonk. People tell you the configuration of those first few corners completely go against any possible overtaking. No one told Nico Verdonk that, did they? Round the outside, a really good move. It's worked for him. He puts a lap on Robert Hissam as well, so Stefan Rossino drops back into 3rd place. And the number 5 McLaren, which is started by Nico Verdonk and has come up from 8th on the grid, is going great guns here. So it's McLaren's 1 and 2, run by different teams. Hexis ahead of the Boutsen Gignon Racing team. Now what about the Dave Price run Gulf Racing car you can see in the background in the hands of Rob Bell? That is inching up onto the tail of the white Blancpain Reiter Lamborghini. It won't be long before Bell starts to attack for 3rd. And then behind them you can see 5th is Matthias Lauda there, 6th is the Audi, Philippe Albuquerque at the wheel, and 7th behind him is the Kessel Racing Ferrari in the hands of Daniel Zampieri, who's taken 2 pole positions this year, and he wants another scalp here. He wants Philippe Albuquerque to get through, to get past him rather, and he's got de Moustier and then Christopher Mies behind him. The number 2 Audi very much playing the team game, isn't it? Just sitting there, Marco Bononomi making sure he's behind and therefore not scoring more points than Christopher Mies. But as far as Zampieri is concerned, he wants to get past another car. Albuquerque is his next target. You're on board with Christopher Mies. He is looking at the back of Gregoire de Moustier. Flat through turn 14, hard on the brakes, down to 2nd gear. See it on the dash on the display for turn 15, and almost tagging the tail of Gregoire de Moustier's McLaren. Up through the gears, over the timing line they come now. The 3 sinister looking Audis then all within the top 10 at the moment. How is Bas Linders getting on? He's still stuck in 13th place behind Mark Henrici. So that BMW that was struggling a little bit for pace yesterday, are they 100% where they want to be with that car? They have precious little time to work on it this morning, just those 3 15-minute segments of qualifying. Number 1, Christopher Mies, running in 9th place at the moment, but of course that's 7th in class, don't forget, because you've got the 2 Pro-Am cars further up the road. Rob Bell's car runs in Pro-Am, indeed is the class leader. Gregoire de Moustier is in Pro-Am. So take those 2 out of the equation when thinking points for the overall championship. Steve Janster fending off Henrici, fending off Linders. Good freeway battle, and the Mercedes in Pro-Am ahead of 2 Pro Cup cars. There's the Jaguar, which was for much of yesterday struggling with an electrical issue. They've got to the bottom of that, but the car's still very much in the early days of its development and struggling a little bit for speed. They get there each round. Zampieri ahead of de Moustier, and de Moustier in turn now is trying to fend off Christopher Mies. 7th, 8th and 9th, those 3 as they work their way out of turn 10, and Henrici there in the Porsche looking for a way past the Mercedes up towards turn 11, but Steve Jans, with experience of the VLN before he came to Blancpain, is able to hang on to the place. Mark Henrici looks to the inside, tucks back in. That Porsche, remember, won at the Nürburgring. The Mercedes it's trying to get past was the class winner at the Nürburgring. And behind them is Bas Linders, waiting to try to find a gap. The race leader has just gone across the timing line. As you look at Bell, attack Rossina coming out of the last corner. Rob Bell should go through. He does go through, even before the line. He's ahead. So now it's a McLaren 1, 2, 3. Hexis ahead of Boutsen Gignon, ahead of Gulf Racing. Rob Bell up into 3rd spot. What further progress can be made from there? He started 7th on the grid. Through goes Lauda. Behind him is Albuquerque. Behind him is Zampieri. And there, number 2, is Marco Bononomi, running in 10th place, but 8th in class. When you take the Pro-Am cars out of the equation, that will be 8th place points for him. Zampieri turning his way up towards turn 6. And we've seen those Audis numbers 1 and 2 running nose to tail. Let's have a word about team strategy if we can, because Vincent Voss is with Haley.
Vincent, 1 and 2 are firmly sticking together. Is this the strategy for the whole race?
Well, no, if it's a strategy, well, it is like this. The car number 2 had a very good start, and I think car number 1 has a safe start. They are both doing very good job, and I hope it's still like this.
Thank you.
And the order of drivers, Christopher Mies will hand over to Christopher Haase. We are told Bononomi to Edward Sandstrom. So Stefan Ortelli and Laurens Vanthoor would do the last stint. Frank Stifler takes over 6, and Oliver Jarvis will do the last stint. That's what they were telling me before the race would be the plan. As you look at Steve Jans still fending off Mark Henrici. This is for 11th, 12th and 13th overall. Don't forget Bas Linders tagged onto the back of that group. Jans, of course, another Pro-Am driver. So that car you can take out of the equation as far as points. So it brings Bas Linders another place back up the order as Henrici tries to have a look for the inside at turn 14, and he can't do it. What about turn 15? Steve Jans, relatively inexperienced driver, stands his ground. Mark Henrici has been racing for many a season. He's raced not just in sports cars, he's raced in the World Touring Car Championship, former Alfa Romeo 147 Cup winner years ago. Mark Henrici certainly knows his way around a racing car, and he hasn't yet found a way around the Mercedes of Steve Jans, but he has a look to the inside at turn 1. He keeps on looking, and you see as well in a straight line how the Porsche was getting away from the BMW. More evidence of how that car does not have the grunt in a straight line. BMW team saying to me yesterday it would rather like it to be wet. Well, the rain might be on its way, but it isn't here yet, so if and when will it come, and how much of a factor is that going to have? I've also just seen on the perimeter roads the 58 Porsche. We saw with its punctured tyre and its spin being brought back, so that car is confirmed as being a retirement, and it means that it's just now the 98 JB Motorsport Audi ahead of the Santilot car of Robert Hissam for the Gentleman Trophy race honours. Going wide there is the number 38 Ferrari, the Scuderia Vittoria car, started by the Paraguayan Danny Candia. He used to race in the UK in single-seaters in the mid-80s. Zampieri past de Musquier, who gets forced out even wider, and he loses out now to Christopher Mies. For the first time, 1 and 2 are not nose to tail. They've got a McLaren between them, so Zampieri gets by, so does Christopher Mies. And Gregoire de Musquier, after a good start, has now rather been elbowed back to the pack, hasn't he? Pressure is going to be on Duncan Tappy after his good pole position lap to try and bring that car back into the mix after the first round of pit stops. We're almost at the end of the first half an hour. The nature of this circuit means there's no real drama on fuel. The team's very, very happy to get the car to the hour mark and do the mandatory pit stop, just break the race into those 3 stints. It's not a circuit where fuel consumption is an issue and you're having to think about a splash and dash at the very end. Over the timing line, Alvaro Parent ahead of Nico Verdonk, ahead of Rob Bell, and now Audi and McLaren run side by side lower down the order. Round the outside, back up a place, goes de Musquier, powers his way up into 8th, ahead of Christopher Mies. Now, how much of that was the McLaren having better speed? How much of that was Christopher Mies not wanting to get involved in a battle, keeping out of trouble? There was a team manager's briefing yesterday where they were reminded about the necessity to race cleanly, unlike in the GT1 World Championship decider at Donington, where there was quite a lot of contact and some unfortunate incidents which really affected the outcome of the championship. That's not something the organisers wanted to see within this Blancpain final round. So the team managers were given a bit of a dressing down yesterday to pass on to their drivers. So far, so good. Christopher Mies then, number 1, currently running in 9th place, being dropped back behind Gregoire de Musquier. Matthias Lauda comes towards it. You can see how here turn 9 has dried up a little bit, even though we've still got these horrible grey clouds hovering over the circuit. Spectacular backdrops at Navarra. We're here in northern Spain, the Kingdom of Navarra, which has its capital of Pamplona, famous for the bull running. The Navarra region, which is 10,400 square kilometres. It's got this 100-mile-long border with France, and it makes a perfect setting for a racetrack. And Bas Lines and Mark Henrici are going to be warming to this circuit because now they've gained a place over Steve Jans. Porsche and BMW go past the Mercedes, and so here at Navarra, things change yet again, not only on track, but also as far as the championship is concerned. Now, what can Bas Lines do about getting past the Porsche? Up towards the timing line. There, you can see in the pit lane the other Mark VDS drivers, some monitoring the progress of number 4, which is currently in 16th, and others looking at the progress of number 3. Now, Daniel Zampieri, who we know is quick because of his 2 pole positions, is almost alongside the Audi as Lauda goes wide. Past him goes Albuquerque. And now Daniel Zampieri in the Castle Racing Ferrari looks for a way by as well, but he hasn't been able to find a way past Lauda just yet. The Austrian keeps him at bay, but Felipe Albuquerque, who we've seen in the Blancpain series in the past, switching away for this weekend from the DTM, gets himself up past the BMW, and it was an error from Lauda, slithering wide, but now Albuquerque goes wide coming out of turn 6, and Lauda is right back on his case, looking for the inside line out of 7 towards 8. He thinks about the inside line, he's still thinking about it as they come onto the straight, but he hasn't quite got the grunt coming out of the corner. Right up behind Lauda is Daniel Zampieri. De Musquier is catching up as well. Albuquerque defends from Lauda, Lauda defends from Zampieri in the Ferrari, and Lauda breaks late going towards turn 9. Daniel Zampieri can't find a way through there, and he's now under pressure from the white McLaren. Right with him is Gregoire de Musquier, who's trying to line up to have a go on the inside, which he does, and he goes through, and he almost tags the back of the BMW. That was very close indeed. Somehow, contact avoided. That was real heart-in-mouth stuff for the Vita 4-1 guys. And it was very touch and go as de Musquier just got the car slowed down in time, and thankfully there was more going than touching, but only by a coat of paint. So de Musquier gains a place from Daniel Zampieri. And again, it shows how you overtake around here. It's got to be with a bit of a lunge, a very brave dive up the inside that, but it's paid off. There, number 2 Audi. Marco Bononomi at the wheel, running 10th as he comes up over the line. Now Henrici and Linders released from behind Steve Jans. Can they catch up to this queue of cars ahead? Up through turn 1 goes Matthias Lauda. He's got Gregoire de Moustier tucked up behind him. So Lauda is 6th and de Moustier is 7th, and Zampieri behind is in 8th place. That's the net result of all the shuffling of that previous lap. De Moustier looks for the inside line down towards turn 5, but there's no opportunity there for him. Going to be pretty brave to overtake up that part of the circuit. Then it's the slow turn 6 climbing uphill, but if you run wide, you compromise all the way through this next section. Number 1, Christopher Mies, doing what's required of him in the early stint, keep out of trouble. I suspect the fireworks are going to come in the last hour where they put Stefano Ortelli in the car. Down towards turn 9 they go. In the background, you can see Audi's trying to find a way past Zampieri's Ferrari. There it is. And there, look, is Mark Henrici and Bas Linders, who not only are running together, but they are catching that leading 10. And therefore, the gap's coming down, and Stephen Jelly breaks as late as he dares in the Von Ryan McLaren going into turn 9. Henrici Porsche, Linders BMW closing on number 2, the Audi of Marco Bononomi. But Bononomi is not going to just let them pass. Certainly he's not going to let the BMW through without a fight. So Bas Linders and Mark Henrici as well are going to have to work oh so hard to gain more ground here. They're on board with Linders now. The BMW makes this great noise, turns through turn 14 flat, and then it's hard on the brakes, down through the gears. Onto this long pit straight. The road climbs uphill as they get towards turn 1. Grandstand on the left, pits on the right, and there's de Moustier having another go to get past Lauda. This is for 6th place. McLaren on the inside, and BMW chops across the front. These two have raced together in the GT1 world as well as within the Blancpain series this year. And we're getting news of an incident between 36, which is Nicky Melnhoff, and number 52, which is the Louis Machiel's Nick Homerson Ferrari, and that is under investigation, we are told. So where the incident came, just trying to think back as to what we may have seen, but either way, the stewards are having a look at that. So we've got then the cars currently working their way on lap 21. There is the number 1 Audi, which is Christopher Mies at the wheel. And Marco Bononomi tucked up behind him. Ferrari recovering after a spin, Gaetano Ardagna. So the car was looking pretty strong early on, but now trying to catch up or pick up pace once again after a spin. Doesn't look too damaged, does it? There's a bit of a dent in the side, but quite what the incident is, well, we'll see if we can get to the bottom of it. Mark Melnhoff and Louis Machiels. There is the 52 Ferrari. Again, a car within Pro-Am, battling with the Beta 4-1 car. De Moustier ahead of Lauda then. We've had the change for 6th overall now, and the BMW tries to fight back as they drop downhill, but can't get through there. Linders to the inside of Mark Henrici there at turn 6. He's over the curb, but he's not been able to find a way through. That was his best chance yet. Bas Linders couldn't make it stick there, but it was worth a go. The other thing he's got to do, of course, is make sure he doesn't get any contact here and risk going out of the race with damage or being delayed with damage. So Bas Linders trying to work a way through. They're all stuck behind traffic, aren't they? Mark Henrici is trying to get through traffic and defend his place. They've also caught the Audis. Not only a great battle this for the race, it's also significant for what might happen in the championship as Lauda goes off the road as he tries to get through traffic. He's up the escape road, and the BMW is going to lose at least one spot to an Audi. On the inside there goes Christopher Mies. Bononomi tries to find a way through but can't, so Lauda drops down a place or two. BMW to the curb as Lauda tries to find a way through, still can't do it, and now the door is open and the Bononomi Audi looks for a way through on the inside at turn 15. Henrici is next up and right there behind them as well as they come over the timing line. You've got Bas Linders now. Henrici tries to find a way past the Audi. If he can open up the door, if he can make that gap, Bas Linders might be able to dive through. But again, look, as Henrici does go past the Audi, the BMW drops away in a straight line. And Lauda's just lost another place, hasn't he? Certainly number one has kept ahead at least. So yes, the Audi managing to stay ahead, even though Lauda fought back, was almost level with him. Number one keeps the place. They drop downhill and now Linders looks for a way past number two. This is not going to be an easy pass. Look at the way Bononomi defends, moves right across on him. Henrici up the road, he's trying to make progress as well. But Bas Linders now is going to have a really rough ride getting past number two Audi. There's also, of course, the lap Ferrari in the mix here. It's number 10, which was started by Maurice Ricci. Right, Bononomi goes past him to lap him. Also, Bas Linders nips up the inside. You're riding on board with Bas Linders down towards turn 9. It's Marco Bononomi ahead of him. And now, of course, there are quite a few cars between Linders and Ortelli's Audi, driven by Christopher Mies at the moment, within the first stint of the race. So there is number one, and you've got, what, 3 cars, all from the same class, separating Audi from BMW. We've got 21 minutes, give or take, before we get the first round of pit stops. Drivers getting themselves suited and booted. Marcus Paltela will take over from Bas Linders, and Maxime Martin, as ever, will do the last stint. Bas Linders doing his best to work the car into contention. He was up to 12th, and he dropped back to 13th. 12 years again, and still Marco Bononomi is not an easy man to get past. Over the line they come. Alvaro Perez, lest you forget, leads the way in the Hexis McLaren. The rest of this group storms over the timing line as Lauda tries to defend from Henrici, who lines up to have a go around the outside, and he does go past. The Porsche is another car getting stronger as the stint wears on, and Lauda dropping away further and further and further. He's made a few errors, as we've seen. Is he now starting to overdrive that car? Either way, he's dropping further and further away. It was third, and we thought he might be going for second. And now it's just clinging onto a place within the top 10. There's the number 3 BMW. Bas Linders still looking for a way past Bononomi. Now they've got the AF Corsa lap Ferrari in the mix to try and find a way past the number 49 car. That had a bit of a drama in qualifying, and that is 52 off the road. The car that leads Pro-Am has had a drama. Louis Machiel's shown as the driver doing the first stint, and that car facing the wrong way off the road as Bononomi tries to make a move on Lauda, who has to get out of his way, and Linders tries to come through as well. 2 places lost for Lauda now, and again you see how it works. One driver forces the move, the door opens up, and if you're really good on your toes you'll pounce as well, and that's how Linders has gained a place. But he's still, of course, even though they got past the BMW, he hasn't got past the Audi of Bononomi. Good news though for Bas Linders is it is 1 further place gained. And what's going on here for Lauda? Why is he struggling like this? Is it just down to him overdriving, or is there something in the balance of that car that is making it handle not as well as once it did? We've already heard once from Frank Kechler. We may need to hear from him again about this, because that car certainly does not look as strong as it did within the first stint. We also need to try to work out what happened to 52. So Louis Machiels, having had his drama, still circulating. There's the GT3 Racing Audi, Craig Wilkins and Aaron Scott's car, one of last year's Team WRT chassis. And this is what happened to number 52, self-induced. Too quick over the curb, back steps out of line. Machiels can't control it. The car spins around, off the road he goes. This is still the battle between Bononomi and Bas Linders. They are running 10th and 11th on the road. But you move them up 2 places as far as their class positions are concerned. We've got 2 Pro-Am cars in the mix, one of which has recovered really well. Gregoire de Musquier, having been elbowed back through the pack, he's gained progress, gained ground, he's up to 5th overall now. This is Linders' view, still staring at the back of Bononomi. Now let's hear from Michael Bartels, who runs the Vita 4-1 team, about why 66 is dropping back. Hayley, all yours.
Michael, it looks like there's issues with the BMW. What's happening?
I really don't know why we are so slow in the moment. Maybe we come in and change the strategy, and then we see if we can improve the performance.
Thank you.
So a bewildered Bartels then, not quite sure why the car is dropping back, but it is. There is Matthias Lauda, and he's now in 12th place overall. Third the car was in the early lap, so clearly something is not right there. Matthias Lauda presumably has not been on the radio to tell them of anything, or if he has, Michael Bartels isn't passing it on. Linders in the meantime is still right there on the back of the Bononomi 10th place Audi. And 88 Leon Price, Von Ryan McLaren, we gather, has stopped at the bike circuit pit entry. Number 24, Stefan Rossina, under pressure, because now Gregoire de Moustier looks for a way past him. Remember that Rossina ran second early on. He's now in fourth, and he could drop to fifth at a moment, because there, right up behind him, is the ART McLaren. They turn their way out of turn 11. Behind them is the number 6 Audi, Felipe Albuquerque, still keeping Daniel Zampieri at bay. Moustier do to find a way past the Lamborghini? We have seen McLarens take places in a straight line coming past the pits. Well, they're almost at that point of the circuit, because that's the flat-out kink at 14, up towards turn 15 now, and then you're on that pit straight heading onto the start of the then lap number 27. Over the line comes Rossina, over the line behind him is de Moustier, and then the next gaggle of cars, Albuquerque just ahead of Zampieri, and then in 8th behind them is Christopher Mies. Through he goes, chased by Mark Henrici still. The number 12 McLaren then right on the back of the Lamborghini. And these two still tied together. Stefan Rossina, a race winner in the GT1 World Championship, and look there, Zampieri makes his move against Albuquerque on the outside, coming out of turn 3, but he can't do it. The Audi staves him off for the moment. Down they come, turn 4 through the left-hander, then to the slow turns 5 and 6, climbing uphill, and Zampieri has dropped a length or two as now Rossina goes wide, and de Moustier tries to get up alongside him, but even if he can, he'll be on the outside line for turn 8. No, he can't find a way through. The McLaren has got to slot back in once more. Now this is how the championship looks in Pro Cup. If things stay as they are, Audi would take it by 3 points from BMW. In other words, the Ortelli Mies Haase car would win it by 3 points over Linders, Martin and Paltler, as now de Moustier goes to the inside against the Lamborghini. Can he find a way by? They're almost level, but again, Gregoire de Moustier's on the wrong line for the next corner. He switches sides and dives up the inside. That's a really good move, and it's worked for him. Great stuff by Gregoire de Moustier to go from one side to the other. He found the gap and he's gone by. And this McLaren that, remember, is leading the is second, I should say, in the Pro-Am class. He's chasing after Rob Bell's car within that group. And given the relative pace of Duncan Tappy against Mike Wainwright, this car is looking very, very strong indeed now to win the class come the end of the race. Mike Wainwright, who has got faster and faster over the season, is not as quick, certainly, as Duncan Tappy. So the ART car, even though it lost paces early on, is looking strong now for a class victory. The incident on the first lap, by the way, between the Santalok Audi and the Porsche of Dylan Deerdala, as you look at Duncan Tappy in the pit lane, is under investigation. Zampieri in the Ferrari challenges to get past Albuquerque, can't do it at turn 1. Through the kink, through the corner, up to the hairpin, and they're both looking for a way past the Lamborghini. Rossina just gets the car across the apex in time, and there was almost contact then as he chopped across the front of Felipe Albuquerque. Downhill they plunge. The 71, Daniel Zampieri, looks for a way through. And behind is Mark Henrici, as now Christopher Mies looks to try to make a move against the Ferrari. He wants to gain a place because it's more points, but what he doesn't want to do is get involved in a battle that might risk anything for that car. There, an early stop, number 4, to get Bert Langin out of the car. And Henri Moser, I suspect, is going to take over. Nick Katzberg is the third driver this weekend. Are they going to put him in next to Henri Moser? We'll double check in a second or two. The car drops down the order, of course, at the moment. That was a pretty short stint from Bert Langin. So he's done his duty for the day. Get him out of the car, change drivers. Let's see how that car now fares for the next stint. It's going to be a fairly long stint for whoever has to do this middle period. It's Henri Moser, in fact, getting in, confirmed from the pit lane. As there you look at number 1, which is Christopher Mies, coming up over the timing line, still chasing Zampieri. Leaders then, now on lap 29. So Alvaro Perret continues to lead from Nico Verdon. Rob Bell third in this McLaren 1-2-3, but it's now a McLaren 1-2-3-4 with Gregoire de Moustier having got past Stefan Rossina. There is the number 4 BMW rejoining. It drops a lap as a result of that early pit stop. So now the pressure is on Henri Moser, former GT3 champion, to bring the car back into contention in this middle stint. As far as the Pro-Am situation is concerned, as we look at Rossina fending off Albuquerque, Petrobelli currently runs 4th in that class, and 52 is a long, long way back. In fact, that is going to put it out of the points, I would think, that spin. So for the moment, Pro-Am looks like it would go the way of Vita 4-1 Team Italy. But things are bound to change with 2 hours and 11 minutes to go as Rossina runs a little bit wide out of turn 9, and right up alongside him now comes Albuquerque. Past him goes Albuquerque. Can he get the line on the outside there? Yes, he can. Moves across, takes the place. So Zampieri now has to go defensive to keep at bay Christopher Mies, the Ferrari, try to get past the Lamborghini of Rossina. That's another car all of a sudden, look, that's dropping away during this stint. And what's happening to Lauda? He's still 12th, but no longer really part of that leading group. He's not yet come in. Michael Bartels was talking about maybe bringing in early and changing the strategy. But Lauda is quicker than Greg Franchi, so they need to try and maximise Lauda as much as they can. And it may, of course, be a car issue, not a Lauda issue. We've just had also into the pit lane the Black Falcon Pro Cup Mercedes, started by Frankie Cheng, and that car, which was second, there it is, just leaving the pits. You can see on the far side of the screen, that's leaving the pit lane. It's also gone a lap down. Damage on the back of Henrici's car now, having found a way past Christopher Mies. So Mark Henrici has gained a place. He's up now into 8th spot. Christopher Mies drops down to 9th. Back to the abacus to see what that does for the championship now. Significantly, not only is it an overall place change, it's a place change in class as well. Christopher Mies tries to fight back as up the road. Zampieri makes his move against the Lamborghini and the Ferrari goes through. Daniel Zampieri has gone by them. He's done it. Up into 6th place goes the Kessel Racing Ferrari ahead of the Lamborghini. And there is Bas Linders, still staring at the back of Marco Bononomi's car. Down towards turn 9 they come. 24 it is, the Stefano Rossina Lamborghini now trying to fend off Mark Henrici. And Mark putting in another good stint here, just like we saw the first third of the race at the Nürburgring. Getting pretty feisty when the car permits. Some circuits work really well for Porsches, others less so. Mark said to me yesterday, I'm not sure this is a Porsche circuit. Well, if that is the case, he's doing a very good job bringing this car into contention. We're on board with Bas Linders, staring at the back of Marco Bononomi, who once again is staring at the back of Christopher Mies, as in now comes Stefan Rossina. The Lamborghini picked relatively early, so he's done 50 minutes. And I would imagine they'll put Jos Menton in for a shortish middle stint, and then Peter Cox to bring it home. So we'll see how Hans Reiter's strategy pans out here as he comes to the end of the pit lane. Jos Menton will take over. In he gets, Stefan Rossina. He made his name really in the Porsche Super Cup, the Slovakian racer, who was based in Oxford for a time. He was studying, but these days very much an international racing driver. Closes the door, job done, and Peter Cox, who's become something of an expert in making Lamborghinis go quickly in recent seasons, will do the last stint. Is it a potential winning car? Not sure, given how strongly the number 7 McLaren is going. Just look in the background, how grey those clouds are. They've not yet deposited any more rain onto the track. Time for new tyres, and again slicks, of course. All the brake dust comes off the front corner. And the way the tyre stops work, remember, just 2 mechanics. One to carry and fit, the other to use the air gun, take the wheel off, tighten, then run to the next corner. And there, look in the background coming in, is 52. And that is going to be, contrary to what we were told initially, Nick Homerson to give way to Louis Machiels. Alessandro Pierguidi will do the 3rd stint. So Louis Machiels now gets on board the car. They did a last-minute shuffle on us. So Louis Machiels strapped in, ready to go. and more pit stops cycling through. The question is going to be, how long will Bas Linders stay out for in the BMW? The team's having to be careful that you don't go over and above the maximum allowance, which is 70 minutes or 75 if you're in a safety car period. BMW versus Audi still, and Bas Linders, try as he might, can't find a way past Bononomi, who is defending ever more vigorously now. Over the timing line they come. This is for 9th and 10th on track. Up towards turn 1, the BMW on the outside, and 1 or 2 more spots of rain on the windscreen possibly there. Up towards turn 2, then turn 3, the hairpin. Is there a gap on the inside for Bas Linders? Yes, he goes for it. Is he alongside? Yes, he is. He's on the curb. He's going to go through. Bas Linders forces Bononomi out wide, but he's done it. He had to really force the issue, and it's paid off. At long last, Bas Linders gets past the Audi, and all that was teed up coming out of the last corner. It took a long time to execute, but Bas Linders has done it. He's got past, and that really is what he's needed to do all stint. Now Bononomi is under pressure from Matthias Lauda. There's 41, which is the Robert Hissem Audi trying to keep out of the way. The Gentleman Trophy champion-elect, effectively. Robert Hissem and Pierre Hershey, they've had a variety of co-drivers over the season. It's going to be just those two. There is the race leader, Alvaro Parent, with Nico Verdonk not that far behind him, is he? Coming up over the timing line, the two McLarens still running together. Through they go. So Alvaro Parent leading the way, and the Hector's McLaren looking very strong indeed at the moment. So it's McLaren with, at the moment, Hexis ahead of Butson-Gigny on the top two. McLaren third, Gulf Racing. McLaren fourth, ART. And then the best non-McLaren, Audi ahead of Ferrari for the Team WRT so-called spoiler car. The third entry for the weekend. Felipe Albuquerque running in 5th place. This is Bas Linders into the pits. Crosses the white line, has to get to the pit lane speed limit, and now he'll bring that car midway up the pit lane where mechanics are ready, and Marcus Paltela will get on board. The car stops. Marcus Paltela ready. The way they operate is always to try and keep Maxime Martin for the last stint. So Bas Linders finally got past the Audi, but on his in-lap, so all that hard work, and then he had to come into the pit lane. What does that give us championship-wise, of course? This car, number 3, will drop down, and in fact, number 2, Audi, is in as well, so having lost its place, Marco Bononomi's car comes in, and they're going to put Frank Stippler into the car. Number 1, then, still circulates, Christopher Mies, doing a longish first stint before he gives way to Christopher Haase. New tyres going on the BMW. Hard work, this, for the mechanics. Wheels and tyres very heavy. They're going to run around each corner, do it as quickly as they can. And the teams do practice pit stops. They are an essential part these days of gaining success, as blasting up the pit lane there goes the number 3 BMW back into the race now. And in fact, on the pit stops, the Audi has got back ahead. There you can see them about to come out of the pit exit lane, and the number 2 Audi, number 2 Audi has gone back ahead. Frank Stippler's number 6 car goes through, and there you can see Marco Bononomi's car, which he's now handed over to Edward Sandstrom, back ahead of the BMW. So after all Bas Linders' hard work, it was a better pit stop for the Audi team. They've done the pit stop faster, and number 2 is back ahead once again. So now Marcus Paltela is going to have to try to find a way past Edward Sandstrom. Frank Stippler's going to take over 6 for the middle stint rather than 2. Apologies, so call that wrong. We're going to, for this stint, have Paltela trying to find a way past Edward Sandstrom. So you've got the Swede ahead of the Finn here. And Bas Linders having a quick chat, as you saw, with Maxime Martin. We'll tell him exactly what the car is like and what the track is like ready for his stint. But they're going to be frustrated, of course, because that Audi is back ahead of the BMW once more. Now this, Alvaro Parent running wide over the curb, is the leading car. The McLaren, how much longer is he going to stay out for? And indeed, who do they put in next? I would imagine it's going to be Steph Dusseldorp next, and they'll keep Fred Makovici for the last stint. You can see how much curb Alvaro Parent is using, how much road he's using, as he tries to distance himself once more from Nico Verdonk. Fred Makovici, fastest of qualifying on a lighter fuel load. Alvaro Parent was quickest in Q2 with a slightly heavier fuel load. Steph Dusseldorp, we know he's quick, but he's not as quick as the other two, so I would imagine they'll put him in the middle, and Fred Makovici will be there for that last stint. And teams will say these days in Blancpain that you really have to have your fastest driver in the last stint in case of a safety car period. can't do it any other way. So that's why, for example, at Marc VDS, Maxime Martin is always held in reserve until that last stint of the race. Into the pits comes Marc Henrici, and so that's another place temporarily gained for the number 1 Audi. Henrici, I would imagine, will give way to Xavier Marson. That's often the way they do it, and then Mark Goossens for the last hour. There's the Pro Speed Porsche into the pit lane. Team is ready for it. Pro Speed run by Rudy Penders, the Belgian Porsche dealer. And the car stops, and the pit stop underway. Fuel, tyres, driver. Henrici out, Marson in. And also coming up the pit lane is number 43 Audi, there you can see, which is started by Jérôme Demey. And one of the drivers of that car this weekend, Adrien Tambay, son of the ex-Formula 1 racer Patrick Tambay, a DTM Audi driver. Now you're riding with Marcus Paltela. Ahead is Rob Bell, and that is because they are on different laps. Now Rob Bell is still third, but the pit stop means that the BMW has gone a lap down. Now we gather that the number 18 Pro Cup Mercedes has got some bodywork damage and is being watched by the scrutineers. So that's in the L's to keep an eye to. And now that we've got Nick Homerson out of 52 and Louis Machiel's confirmed as being in the car, what progress will that make in Pro-Am? There's the number 7 race leading McLaren still. We've got 75 Porsche just leaving the pit lane. So now all things start to shuffle as we get into these pit stops. But up front, we've still got the McLaren 1, 2, 3, 4. Exis ahead of Boutsen Gignon, ahead of Gulf Racing, ahead of ART. And what about Christopher Mies? Does he come in this time? No. One more lap would get him the other side of the hour mark, which I think is probably to where they want to get that car. They've got the number 2 Bononomi to Sandstrom pit stop out of the way. Number 6 hasn't been in, of course. Felipe Albuquerque staying at the wheel of it to give way yet to Frank Stippler. You've just seen the Jack Gerber Ferrari go a lap down. The enthusiastic South African Jack Gerber, who had a big accident here last year. He's bounced back from that, and Jack gets quicker and quicker all the time. He's got Marco Chiocci with him. We know how fast Marco is, so he'll be one to watch when he gets behind the wheel of that car. Again, different drivers, completely different attitude the car seems to have, depending on the pace of the man behind the wheel. So, as Henrici's car is in the hands of Xavier Marson, it is about to drop a lap against number 5, Nico Verdonk, staying out. But of course, Marson doesn't want to lose out, but he's going to have to. The faster Verdonk, well into his stint. This is an outlap for Xavier Marson, and behind him there you can see Andrew Smith in the Acuria Corse BMW. As into the pits comes the leader, so Alvaro Parent comes in at the end of lap 36, it will be. So in he comes, and Verdonk is going to stay out, so the number 5 McLaren will inherit the lead this time. Into the pit box comes Alvaro Parent, there it is. And Steph Dusseldorf is going to take the car over. So good job done by the Portuguese ex-Formula Renault 3.5 and Formula 3 champion, Alvaro Parent. Steph Dusseldorf, remember, double winner here in the GT1 World Championship rounds back in the early part of the year with Fred Macco. He will take over Fred Macavicki for the last stint. So that gives you Nico Verdonk as the leader. Rob Bell is in as well to give way to Mike Wainwright. That, of course, the way they operate, just 2 drivers in that car, is really the last we're going to see of Rob Bell, which is a shame. Mike Wainwright now has to do really the rest of the race, and so the car's going to drop back a bit. So there you can see it happening in the background, the pit stop. Rob Bell walks away, his work done, but Mike Wainwright, who, as I said early on, has got faster over the season, he's not as quick as Rob Bell, so that car's going to drop away, I'm afraid, now within Pro-Am as the new tyres come out for it. The new tyres are there also on the number 7 McLaren, which drops down, and away it goes. Steph Dusseldorf blasts up the pit lane. They're at the pit out end, so they don't have too much of the pit lane to worry about driving up on the limiter across the white line. And now the car can pick up pace. You see the white line on the track. That is what people were being penalised for driving over within earlier sessions. You cannot do it. So number 7 can, on the pit stop, it stay ahead of the number 5 McLaren. We won't know until Nico Verdonk pits. It should do, given the gap between them. Mike Wainwright in the Gulf Racing car is just leaving the pit lane now. That will drop down. And 52, you can see Louis Machiel's striving to gain places in the Pro-Am Cup competition. There's Mike Wainwright then in the Gulf Racing McLaren again. Another strong effort done by Rob Bell. Just the one car this weekend, the other one, which is the regular Raoul Goethe Stuart Hall car, not here. Raoul Goethe on family duty this weekend rather than racing. we're getting news that the Pro Cup Frankie Cheng Mercedes and car 80, which is the Jaguar, have had a clash, and the incident is under investigation. The bodywork damage on the Mercedes was being observed as well, as there you can see the number 15 McLaren in, which is the Pro-Am class car. And that is now in 20th place, Jérôme Thierry having brought the car in. But the Mercedes, not only with bodywork damage, but also an incident under investigation. And the stewards haven't been too busy, certainly not compared to the Nürburgring this weekend thus far. Is that about to change now? Also do with another weather update from Haley in the elements in the pit lane. Is it going to stay dry, or is this rain that everyone is predicting actually going to arrive? Some people are saying it's going to strike at about 4 o'clock, and we're half an hour away from that local time. So it might be that teams are going to get a bit wet soon, but we'll keep an eye to it. We'll see what happens, as you have Xavier Martin ahead of Edward Sandstrom now. So that means that the Porsche has stayed ahead of the Audi on pit stops, and this currently is the race-leading car. Nico Verdonk doing a strong job. Now bear in mind that the number 5 McLaren has Andy Soucek and Zoel Amberg as the other two drivers. Andy Soucek has never raced a GT car before, and Zoel Amberg is new to the car as well. So how are they going to split this up? Andy Soucek proved to be quicker than Zoel Amberg in qualifying, so would it make sense to put Zoel Amberg in next for a shortish middle stint? Well, certainly Nico Verdonk is doing the lion's share for the moment, isn't he? Staying out for another lap as he comes up over the line. Can't do more than 70 minutes, so he comes up towards the timing line. Nico Verdonk, victorious here last year with Michael Bartels and Frank Kekela. That was in the days of Vita 4-1 Ferrari. Now in the McLaren. It's been a frustrating season for him, but Nico Verdonk's pace is still there. The number 3, Mark VDS BMW, Marcus Paltela, 18th. And Gregoire de Mustier is in. We saw him go strongly early on. He has just come in to give way to the class pole winner, Duncan Tappy. Nico Verdonk continues to lead as he heads up now towards turn 6. Incidentally, Matthias Lauda is still staying out, but he's still dropping away from the leading group. He's now over half a minute behind the race leader. Remember how strongly the Vita 4-1 BMW was going early on in the race? Not anymore. What's going to happen to that car? And there is big drama for one of the Ferraris. Now that, by the look of it, could be one of the Scuderia Vittoria car, is it? 38? Yeah, it's Danny Candia, the Paraguayan. And that's got big drama, as you can see on the left rear corner. In fact, it's made a pit stop, so it's Jody Fannin at the wheel of the Scuderia Vittoria entry. Jody Fannin, who is this year's British GT4 class champion, racing at this level for the first time. And how has that happened? Is that a breakage or is that contact? So Jody Fannin trying to limp the car round to the pit lane. Jody, who came out of Ginetta Junior Racing up to British GT with Warren Hughes, from whom he's learned a huge amount. It's been a pretty big stage to launch him onto this weekend, but he was going strongly in the earlier sessions. But that car with dramas, and it's limping back to the pit lane. Right, this is what happens. Let's have a look. He comes up towards turn 3, and is that a loose wheel that just sort of folds itself underneath the car? It looks, yeah, either a loose wheel that wasn't tightened up properly or something that's broken to make the wheel loose. In the meantime, in together, Cam Albuquerque and Zampieri. You'll see Kevin Despenas in the pit lane as well with the white bonneted Ferrari. Right, out gets Albuquerque, and now Frank Stippler folds himself up, clambers into the car. The German driver, who is busy in historic racing as well these days with Alfa Romeos and E-types, is on board the car now. Now, is he going to be near the McLaren? The gap between them was a fairly wide one early. Yeah, it's going to be a big gap, isn't it? Because they've still got to do the tyre change. Yeah, you can't do the tyres while you're refueling. So now, and only now, does it go up on the jacks. And the number 7 McLaren comes over the line. So yes, it will maintain track position. It will maintain the gap over the number 6 Audi. That wasn't really a major factor against the Hectis car, of course, early on. Remember the big lead that Perez had built up? That is not really going to be in jeopardy, I don't think, on the pit stop, unless Hectis had made a bad move somewhere in the pit stops. And it's a very good team, as we've seen in the GT1 World Championship, in terms of pit work. Away goes Frank Stippler then. And you can see more and more teams getting ready. Kessel Racing still finishing off the tyre change. Now there, again, look at how good WRT have been in the pits, because Zampieri came in right on the tail of Albuquerque, and now look at the gap. They make their way up the pit lane, the Audi ahead of the Ferrari and by a slightly greater margin. And 71 Ferrari now goes the way of Davide Rigon. So he takes over that car. And he's back on track now, number 71. So things continue to change, albeit we've not yet had number 1 Christopher Mies in. And it is still Nico Verdonk leading the way. Number 10, Software Ferrari, we gather, has had a loose diffuser. And now, look, slow car coming into the pit lane. Whoa, that's a bit risky, going all over the grass just before the white line. And Jody Fannin has done a very good job of nursing that car back to the pits with a wheel that clearly does not want to be part of the car. But now he's got a hairpin to get through, and he's virtually in a crawl. And if he stops in the pit entry lane, it's going to create pandemonium. There in is 57, Giacomo Petrobelli gets out of the car. Still clear, of course, of 52, now Louis Machiels. And 38, well done, Jody Fannin. He's limped the car back, he's lost a lot of time, but hopefully they can get that car back into the race. I think I was halfway through mentioning a loose diffuser had been spotted on one of the soft red Ferraris. Jody Fannin's Ferrari has sort of abandoned itself on the pit apron, so the mechanics have to get to it and try and drag it into its parking spot somehow. The new wheels and tyres going on to the 57 Vita 4-1 Team Italy Ferrari. So 57 it is that sits up on its stilts in the pit lane. And the Vita 4-1 team in a moment will drop the car down, as now you're on board once more with Marcus Paltela. And as he goes over the timing line, the way things have panned out, we saw him chasing Rob Bell when they were a lap apart. Now he is chasing Mike Wainwright for position. So 11th and 12th they go through, and Verdonk is in this time, and Christopher Mies is in as well. So the top two both make pit stops together at the end of lap number 41. There is the number 1 Audi with Christopher Haase getting on board the car. And they've got to change the tyres, of course, once the fuel has gone in. Door closes. So Christopher Mies has done his work, and this is going to put this car back into the lead of the race, isn't it? Number 7, and it is Steph Dusseldorp at the wheel of it, will go back into the lead of the race. New tyres go onto the number 1 Audi. But where will that car feed back in relative to this BMW, for example, and of course 75, the Porsche that was going strongly, Mark Henrici having given it over now to Xavier Marson. So Steph Dusseldorp leads the way, number 1, back into the race, blasts up the pit lane, and number 5 stays ahead. So the number 5 McLaren stays ahead of the Audi on the pit stops, and of course loses the lead. It has gone the way of Zoe Lamberg to do the middle stint, as predicted. So number 7 maintains its advantage as number 1 heads up the pit lane. Christopher Mies having brought the car in. Christopher Haase takes it out, of course. And that car is going to rejoin just ahead of Frank Stippler there, looking number 6. So, yes, on the pit stops, number 1 goes ahead of number 6. Felipe Albuquerque was always ahead of Christopher Mies. And straight away, Christopher Haase on new cold tyres. It's a little bit sideways as he tries to fend off his teammate. And behind them, you've got Duncan Tappy having taken over now from Gregoire de Moustier. Oliver Jarvis there on the left watching on. He's yet to go. And in his woolly hat, Laurens Vanthoor, who will do the last stint in car number 2. 2 smiles from them for the moment. So the race order currently, number 7, Steph Dusseldorp, leading 5, Zoe Lamberg. 3rd is number 1, Christopher Haase. 4th, you can see the battle between them, is Frank Stippler. 5th is Duncan Tappy in the ART McLaren. 6th is Davide Rigon, number 71 Ferrari. Then you've got 7th, 75, Xavier Marson. 8th, we've had the pit stop, Lauda out, Franchi in the BMW. 9th is number 2 Audi, Edward Sandstrom. And then in 10th place, number 3, Marcus Paltela in the Mark BDS BMW. 24 is a car that's rather faded, isn't it? Because Jos Menton is currently now down in 12th place, having taken over from Rossina, and that car not making very much progress from there. Up towards the timing line comes the race of Boots and Chignon Racing McLarens. 15 was the first of them, which of course is the Pro-Am class car, which has dropped back after its recent pit stop. Jerome Thierry started in that car, and Edouard Mondrol now is behind the wheel of it. Round the outside of the number 6 Audi goes Duncan Tappy, so that now puts him up into 4th place. Duncan Tappy goes through, picks up a place ahead of Frank Stippler, but Christopher Haase doing what he needs to be. He is ahead of all of the other Audis, and he is ahead of number 3. So you've got all 3 of the WRT Audis ahead of the number 3 BMW, and the number 4 BMW is behind all of them and only in 15th place and not really able to contribute very much to help number 3 within the championship. So it's looking pretty good, this, isn't it, at the moment for WRT? Just depends what progress Maxime Martin can make in that last stint. Jaguar about to go a lap down further up the road, the Emile Frey Racing run car, which has got Freddie Bath for the middle stint in car number 80. Gets out of the way, lets Haase through, lets Tappy through, lets Stippler through, and Davide Rigon is also somebody that's dropped back a little bit on pit stops. The DB Motorsport BMW that was started by Nicky Malmhoff just went through the shot there as Tappy is under pressure here, look, from Frank Stippler, who wants to place back as they come up over the line. And then also in that mix is the number 50 lap Ferrari, Marco Ciocci at the wheel, whose sole task is to drive as fast as he can for the middle stint before the car goes back to Jack Gerber. And Marco Ciocci, 28th, is absolutely storming now. He's got to try and unlap himself, which is not going to be easy. I think the car, yes, is 2 laps down. That's pretty much a forlorn hope. All he can do is just drive as fast as he can for the AF Corsa team. So 3rd, 4th, 5th you're looking at. Haase ahead of Tappy, ahead of Stippler. And Stef Dusseldorp leading the way by 39 seconds from Zoel Amberg. And Amberg is slower than Dusseldorp, so that gap's just going to grow, isn't it, in this middle stint. The Hex's team, don't want to suggest a shoe-in for a victory. Well, it's only a disaster, surely, that he's going to stop them taking the race win here. Alvaro Perez has already done the fastest lap of the race. Number 12, Duncan Tappy, keeping at bay for the moment, Frank Stippler. Although Tappy goes a little bit wide, and now Stippler makes the run up on the inside towards turn 12, and there's almost contact. There is contact, and it's the McLaren that gets bundled out of the way, and Stippler didn't get past him. So it's the right situation, really. The McLaren stays ahead of the Audi, and Frank Stippler trying to make a move that didn't quite work for him. And now, what damage has that done to the McLaren? Straight away, some of the ART mechanics get on their feet, ready to go to the pit apron, just in case Duncan Tappy needs to bring the car in. There's Gregoire de Moustier looking on, very nearly seeing his car bundled off the road altogether, but Frank Stippler delayed himself in all of that, the bite a bit, really. And so that means that not only did Duncan Tappy keep the place, but also Davide Rigon, now number 71, is a little bit closer to them. Xavier Marston is running 7th, Sandstrom is running 8th, Franchi is running 9th, Marcus Paltela is in 10th place. Eugenio Amos took over from Giacomo Petrobelli, we are told, in 57. That car is now running 3rd in Pro-Am. And the 52 AF Corsa Ferrari is currently running 9th in Pro-Am. So that would mean that Vita 4-1, Petrobelli, Amos and Bonaccini would take the class in the championship if things were to stay as they are. And of course part of that was the spin for Nick Homerson within that first stint. That's number 17 Ferrari, which yesterday had a steering column breakage, and the car, having been started by Dennis Anderson, has now got Martin Jensen behind the wheel of it, and it is running in 25th place. And there's the fight between Xavier Marston and Edward Sandstrom. We know that Sandstrom can really charge on, because that has been proved in earlier rounds of the championship, like Monza, like Silverstone, and regularly in the Spa 24 Hours, especially last year. Think back to when the car was 30-something on the grid when he drove a BMW and finished in 2nd place. So that Sandstrom is certainly quick, he wants to get himself up the order. He needs to stay behind the number 1 car to play the team game. So with 1 hour and 42 minutes of the race, indeed the season remaining, this, if things were to stay as they are in class, is how we'd be looking, with Audi taking the championship by 10 points from Marc VDS BMW. That would be the situation. And then back up to third would come the Porsche team, Goossens, Henrici and Marson. But again, a lot can yet happen. We're not even at the halfway mark yet. Now, as far as the situation lower down is concerned, the fading BMW of Kekler, Lauda and Franchi only 1 point up on Frank Stippler. So as the car has dropped places in the race, it's dropped places in the championship as well. And we know that this middle sit for Greg Franchi isn't going to be as quick as the last one of Frank Kekler. That's another car just to keep an eye to see where that can end up within the title race. But at the moment, Xavier Marson's good effort in the Porsche, running 6th in class, is bringing that back into contention. 71 on track is Davide Rigon you're looking at. Another car that's starting to go quicker is the number 2 Audi, Edward Sandstrom. I said a moment ago, we know he can charge, and he's just done the car's best lap of the race. There's Rigon, turning his way onto the pit straight. He's on the tail still of Frank Stippler. Now, at some point, they need to get, of course, the number 2 car past number 6, don't they, at WRT, to help that within the championship as well. Duncan Tappi battling with the lap Marco Ciocci Ferrari. Duncan really could afford to let him go, I suppose, rather than get involved in a squabble here. Now let's hear from Gregoire de Moustier, because he did a very good job in the ART McLaren. You're looking at it now, and Duncan Tappi is behind the wheel of it, but Gregoire de Moustier is in the pit lane, so too is Haley.
Greg, that was certainly an impressive stint you had in the McLaren, and now it's handed over to Duncan, who's healthily involved in a battle with the Ferraris and the Audis. How's he going to get an advantage over them?
For us, the goal is to win the point class, so we won't fight too much with the other. We try to finish the race as well as we can, but without take too much risk, and we'll see. It was good. I hope the rest of the race will be so good at the beginning.
Certainly no Hex has proved this year in GT1 that it is a McLaren track also.
Yeah, each time we came here with the McLaren, we had some good results, so it's good. It's a very good track for the car, so we're happy with that. And everything is there for have a good result, so it's good.
Thank you.
On track, Xavier Marson is still just fending off Edward Sandstrom. So you've got the 2 of them together, and diving up the inside of Stippler goes Davide Rigon, but the Audi just hangs onto its place then as they work their way out of turn 13. That was a good effort made by Rigon, but Frank Stippler was able to stand his ground. The former Porsche Super Cup champion, Frank Stippler, who's raced, of course, this car within the FIA GT1 World Championship this season. It's his regular car that he shares with Oliver Jarvis. Dug out of the Donington gravel, it comes over the timing line, still ahead of the Ferrari. So on track, we've now got a McLaren 1, 2, Audi 3, McLaren 4, Audi 5, Ferrari 6, Porsche 7, Audi 8, BMW 9, BMW 10. Marcus Paltela, is he catching Greg Franchi? Let's have a look, they've just gone over the line. Yes, Marcus Paltela, there he is, very definitely closing on Greg Franchi. The reigning champion, remember, Greg. Ex-Audi driver, who has this year switched to BMW. And Greg Franchi, who won the Spa 24 Hours last year, really helped into that by Matthias Ekstrom and Timo Scheider in the guest Audi. They shared with him and took points at the end of the race, and at the 12-hour mark, Greg Franchi, though, has struggled a bit in the BMW this year. So he needs to try and hang on to a decent place in the top 10, and then Frank Kekler can be released into the last stint. Always this appetising prospect of keeping the faster drivers in reserve for the last stint. Wipe her on. Now, is that because we're getting spots of rain, or was that just because he's not the stalk? Number 4 is Henri Moser at the wheel of the Marc VDS second BMW, and he's on the tail of Oliver Morley. The car started by Steve Jans, remember. Now, within Pro-Am, it is Vita 4-1, set to take the championship if things stand as they are. 10 points up on that prediction from Homerson and Machiels. So that spin early on for the black AF Corsa Ferrari has done it a power of no good, but it's looking very strong for the Amos Bonaccini Petrobelli combination of drivers. And what about Sofrev's, Bade Bobelik and Guila? Still 10 points back from the AF Corsa car. So even though they're a bit of a long shot for the runners-up spot, it's not heading their way. There's Giacomo Petrobelli nearest the camera with the towel around his neck. Hello, Giacomo. The Italian who lives in London. And he's done the first stint in this car, 57 Ferrari. Lower down in the championship, Demustier and Tappi would be set for 58 points, 6 up on Anthony Beltoise and Henry Acid. And the Haribo Porsche team you just caught a glimpse of on that caption, not here this weekend, although they've been running fairly strongly in the class. That's a team missing the round. That is the AF Corsa Ferrari that I've been talking about. Nick Homerson spun it, Louis Machiels is now behind the wheel, but the third stint will be handled by Alessandro Pierguidi, who is a very, very quick Italian driver indeed, both in terms of his single-seater ability and his GT ability. So this will be a car for sure that will come back up the order. Louis Machiels currently running in 20th overall. Of course, the other fascination about the class situation, both Pro and Pro-Am, is that you've got the cars that don't regularly win in these classes going so strongly in this last round. So, for example, the number 12 ART McLaren, way out front at the moment, ahead of the Gulf Racing McLaren. That's in Pro-Am. In the Pro Cup, you've got the Hexis car that we've not seen all season, ahead of the much improved Boutsen Gignon car. So again, they're taking points away from those that are fighting for the championship. Towards us comes the JB Motorsport Audi, Jan Brunstedt having started, and that car now has Daniel Roos behind the wheel. So one or two nervous people in the pit lane as the race order comes across the screen. McLaren 1-2, Audi 3 at the moment, and Christopher Haase is still being able to stay pretty much in touch. Alessandro Pierguidi, you saw watching his car. There it is, 52. Louis Machiels looking for a way past Jean-Luc Bobelik. The battle on screen is for 19th and 20th overall, but it's a class position. So if this switches round, it's more points for 52. Louis Machiels needs to get on with the job here. As the leader, Stef Dusseldorf, working his way through the traffic. The gap that this car has built up, thanks to Alvaro Perez, is a massive one, and it's looking very, very good for that car now. I think, barring really only a mechanical drama, is that going to be threatened? There it is, out of turn 15, up over the timing line. That for Stef Dusseldorf is the end of lap number 50, and as he heads up towards turn 3, still waiting for the second place car to come over the line. So Zal Amberg, who to be fair, GT rookie, is not doing a bad job, but he's a long, long way back. He needs a safety car in the last stint really to throw people a lifeline, and Amberg is still yet to come over the line. It's a massive, massive gap, and Amberg in turn is being caught by Christopher Haase. Now this BMW fight is for 9th and 10th overall. Greg Franchi still ahead of Marcus Paltela. Just had the second place car go over the line. It's 45 seconds between the top two, and the gap is just lengths between Amberg and Haase, second and third. Now what can Paltela do about the BMW ahead of him as they make their way up towards the timing line? Both the BMWs have been struggling for top-end speed. There's the bodywork flapping Porsche of Xavier Marson putting a lap on 17 Martin Jensen's Ferrari, the Insight Racing car. And Marson, in turn, is being able to fend off Edward Sandstrom, who nips up the inside of the sometimes anonymous white Ferrari. Gains a place. The cars drop downhill. Sandstrom is certainly pushing hard, that's for sure. Xavier Marson out of turn 6, running in 7th spot. Still Marcus Paltela in number 3 is down in 10th place, and the number 1 Audi runs 3rd. And although Mark VDS was a little bit grumpy early in the week, but there was a 3rd Audi, it doesn't take away the fact that that car is struggling for pace. It's got a lot of traffic to make a way through. Irrespective of that 3rd Audi, it would still have to gain a lot more paces to have any chance whatsoever of winning the championship. So Xavier Marson in the Porsche, running 6th in class and 7th overall. Edward Sandstrom right up behind him. The cars work their way down now towards turn 12, second gear. It's very point and squirt end to the lap and a slow Audi ahead. That was the Eric Quintois car, had a spin in qualifying. There it is, the white Audi just up the road. That's going to be taken over next by Adrien Tambay. Race leaders already through, and once more, Steph Dusseldorf's advantage continues to grow. Still looking very, very strong in the leading car. There he is, an advantage 45 seconds, I should say, last time through. And the Hex's team looking pretty chuffed about life. There is Dusseldorf, working his way around the end of the lap, coming then now towards turn 13. Now about to accelerate once more up towards the very, very tight, very slow last corner. This to rattle off lap 52. Over the timing line comes the leading car. Behind, look, you've got the battle for second in Pro-Am side by side. Mercedes and McLaren is Oliver Morley versus Mike Wainwright, and Oliver Morley goes through on the inside. Winner at the Nürburgring, so he's taken second in Pro-Am away from Mike Wainwright, and then behind there is Eugenio Amos, and of course Amos in the red and black Ferrari there is looking to win the class in the championship. So although he wants another place away from the McLaren on track, he's another driver thinking about, to an extent, how many risks he can afford to take. He looks on the inside line. Does Wainwright give him racing room? It doesn't have to. It's a genuine battle for position, this. But Eugenio Amos lines up on the inside. Is he going to go through? It's hard to overtake at turn 6. It's narrow, it's tight, and he can't do it. To turn 8, it's another slow corner, but it puts you onto this long straight now, down towards turn 9. Up to 216 kilometres an hour on a straight line here. Look at the way the Mercedes has gapped the McLaren. And what does Amos do now? He moves to the inside line. Mike Wainwright checks his mirrors. He sees the Ferrari coming. They go side by side to the corner. And the Ferrari goes through, third in class now. And that's even better for the championship. Eugenio Amos then looks as though if the car stays out of trouble, he's going to bring the Pro-Am Cup class title the way for Vita 4-1 Team Italy, of him, Alessandro Bonaccini and Giacomo Petrobelli, who has done all he can do this season now. Giacomo just sitting in the pit bunker, biting his nails. It's getting darker here at Navarra. It's getting a bit gloomier overhead, and the rain that was expected for 4 o'clock would be 2 minutes away if it's going to arrive bang on cue. This is for second place on track. Zoe Lamberg ahead of Christopher Hauser, and the two of them running together, nose to tail now. This is another reason why the lead gap is growing, because Amberg is busy defending, but fair play to him. The first time we've seen him in the car this year, and he's doing all he can to maintain second place, and he's not put a wheel wrong under huge pressure from a former GT3 champion, don't forget, as now Hauser looks to the inside line going down towards turn 13, second gear. Sharp right, back on the power, speed building. Turn 14, kink, flat out, 185 kilometres, fourth gear, hard on the brakes, down through the box. Second gear corner for some. Back on the power now, and this, the best we've seen all season from Butson-Gignon Racing. Over the line now comes Zoe Lamberg, and remember Andy Soucek, the very quick Spanish driver, is going to take that car over for the last stint. Over the line goes the number 1 Audi. That last lap was not quite as quick as Amberg, and then behind them, look, joining in the mix as well is Duncan Tappy, who said after qualifying this morning that he was thinking an overall podium was realistic, not just a class win. Well, he's on target for a class win currently. He's 1 place away from a podium. We've got to the halfway mark. WRT would take the team's title, its drivers, the Drivers' Championship for Car 1, if things stay as they are. How's in the mix of all of this? Davide Rigon getting on. He's still on the tail of Frank Stippler. Stippler is still on the back of Tappy. Look at this long queue. Second all the way back to 6th, coming down towards now turn number 9. So Amberg, just to make the point again, new into the car and doing a great job of defending. Amberg then is ahead of Hauser, and then it's Tappy, Stippler and Rigon. They're heading up now towards the end of lap 54. and it continues to look gloomy overhead. As I say, this rain is forecast at 4 o'clock. It is 4 o'clock now, so is it about to start to get wet? We've already had a little bit of rain early on. It's been a rather rain-affected season. Bear in mind how wet it was at the start of the races at Monza and at Silverstone. We had plenty of it at Spa. Somehow we got away with a dry race at the Nürburgring. Even spots of rain on the grid at Paul Ricard, despite it being a really hot and sunny weekend. We got the odd spot or two just before the race started, and we've had rain already to a limited degree within this last round of the Blancpain Series. Duncan Tappy continuing to do this great job. British Formula Renault champion, Formula 4 champion before it. And Duncan, having taken this change of path away from being a single-seater racer now to try to launch a GT career, has done a really good job this year. He was on the podium at the Nürburgring last time out, despite suffering from really, really bad food poisoning that had laid him low for the bulk of the weekend. So he did a very good job there, not in the best of health. And as he said to me this morning, I've kept away from the fish all weekend, so certainly it's helping. He's going quicker than we've seen all year. The car is 4th overall, leading its class, and of course started from a class pole position, 3rd overall. So Lamberg hangs on to his 2nd place. McLaren, Audi, Ferrari. We've not had a Ferrari win all year, much to the annoyance of Kessel Racing, the only team to have run a Pro Cup Ferrari. And unless there's a real drama for the Hatches McLaren, it ain't going to be a Ferrari win here either, is it? Because the car is 6th. Yes, it's in this battle, but it's a long way back from the leading car. It's almost looking like Spa now as you look out of the window, because the lights are getting ever brighter. You'd think it was heading into the night now, but it's getting so gloomy overhead here at Navarra. The lights having ever more of an effect there. 2nd is Amberg in the McLaren as he works his way out of turn 15 over the timing line. By and large, it's all smiles at Team WRT. Pierre Dieudonné, one of the 2 people who runs this team, standing in the background, and Pierre himself, a multiple race winner, both in terms of GT and touring cars, and a former Belgian journalist. Frank Stippler fending off Davide Rigon for the moment. That Ferrari 458 using a big bite of curb, going through turn 2, through turn 3 now, effectively the hairpin there, the tightest of the 3 corners, and then the speed builds as they drop downhill. Flat through turn 4 at 175 kilometres an hour, and then out of turn 5 it's hard on the brakes, down through the gears, and get the car safely through turn 6 and climb uphill. Amberg still going well also in the McLaren, and again, although Christopher Hauser is quicker perhaps than the McLaren driver, he's having to be mindful not to take too many risks. And we now have rain in the pit lane. It's starting to rain at 3 minutes past 4. It wasn't a bad forecast, was it, that? Only 3 minutes late. And so now it's starting to spit with rain, and we are effectively 25 minutes away from the end of the next hour, when you could anticipate the next round of pit stops. The plot thickens. Now let's see who's going to be good in the wet. Not touch on the Gentleman Trophy, but of course, as long as Robert Hissam and Pierre Hershey finish, then they're on target to take the championship. They're 2nd at the moment, with Pierre Hershey at the wheel behind the JV Motorsport Audi of Daniel Roos, but that's enough, of course, to take the championship. So the Gentleman Trophy is looking good for them. As you look at number 2, Edward Sandstrom, who is still on the tail of Xavier Marson, and then behind them is Greg Franchi, trying to get back into the mix. An incident between 52 AF Corsa Ferrari and number 43 Santalok Audi is now under investigation. Things potentially could be going from bad to worse for AF Corsa and the Machiels Thomas and Pierre Guidi Ferrari in this race, as more flashing of the lights coming over the line was that time from Edward Sandstrom to try and terrorise Xavier Marson out of the way. Marson is not going to crack though, not going to get out of the way. It's a genuine fight for position. There's the champion-elect combination of Hauser, Mies and Ortelli. And again now, Christopher Hauser is right on the tail of Zoel Amberg, and Duncan Tappy doing the right thing here, just lagging back a little bit, waiting to see what pans out ahead of him. If they're going to get physical and the road gets greasy, it could all play into his hands. You're on board now with Christopher Hauser. He's right on the tail of the McLaren. Down towards turn 9, hard on the brakes. 2nd gear, McLaren goes a little wide, but there's no opportunity for the Audi to get up the inside there. And now they storm their way up to turn 11. And remember, but all the while that Hauser is trying to find a way through, he's under attack from Duncan Tappy. Hauser can't afford to leave the door open. You because he's in danger of losing places. While all this is going on, what news of Marcus Paltela? He is still running in 10th place, and he's lapping in the 1-minute 40s, whereas this gaggle are lapping in the 1:39, so he's losing touch with them as they come up over the line. The leader goes through once again, which is now 57 laps done by Steph Dusseldorf. Tappy sandwiched between the Audis, and Duncan thinking about his overall podium, but of course he's way clear in class, running 4th against 13th Oliver Morley. Haase goes defensive against Tappy as they come over the line, and behind them also now Stippler having to go defensive to try to fend off Davide Rigon. Up towards turns 1, 2 and 3, this early sequence they go. Nothing changes in the order, does it there? Yes, it does. Tappy has gone through. Duncan Tappy finds a way past the number 1 Audi. He's done it. So Duncan Tappy now good for the overall podium, but of course he's got to give the car back to Gregoire de Moustier for the last stint. That's how they've worked it in previous rounds. So let's now see whether Tappy can get past Amberg, whereas Christopher Haase couldn't. Haase perhaps being a bit more circumspect, thinking about the championship, but now Duncan Tappy can get stuck in and have a go. Onto the back straight they come. More traffic ahead of them, and now Duncan Tappy is going to have a look potentially for the inside line under braking. Is he near enough? No, not quite. Behind them still is the number 1 Audi. That's going to be secure, of course, to hang on to that place, because behind is number 6, which is the Frank Stippler car, and that ain't going to challenge for position. Frustratingly for Davide Rigon, he's going to try and find a way past both Audis. He's got to do it himself. He can't hope that one forces a mistake out of the other, because that is not going to happen. This is a replay of how the place changed. Duncan Tappy storms past the Audi on the outside going through turn 2, moves across, takes the line into turn 3, good clean past that. And again, it proves that people are wrong where they see you can't overtake around that first sequence of corners. Granted, Christopher Haase perhaps not making too much of a fight out of it, he wants the points rather than any damage, but even so, up into 3rd spot has gone Duncan Tappy. The Kessel Racing team being able to force a smile, even though Davide Rigon is still stuck in 6th place. And in traffic is the number 15 Edward Mondron McLaren, soon to be lapped by its quicker team car of Zoe Lamberg running in 2nd place. There is Rigon on the tail of Stippler, and 36 has had a spin. Michael Mallock at the wheel of it. Michael in his first GT3 race, and he's back in the race. Slots in behind Joe Twyman in the Acuria Cost car that's just picked up the place away from him then. Up into 25th spot goes Joe Twyman. So Michael Mallock's spin cost him a place. 2 British drivers then, one for Acuria Cost, the Barwell run car, the other for DB Motorsport, and also trying to get it on the inside is Aaron Scott there, number 30, having taken over from Craig Wilkins. So the Audi also trying to join that mix as Amberg is under pressure from Tappy coming out of turn 8. And right with him as well is Christopher Haase, who, although he's lost the place, wants to remind people of his speed, and he's fighting back as Amberg defends from Tappy, who goes one way, then the other. He goes to the outside, the car squirms under braking. Can he go all the way around the outside? Yes, he can. What a move! Great stuff. Duncan Tappy right round the outside, desperately late on the brakes, and he's done it. Great move. Tappy then now up into 2nd place. Down to 3rd has gone Amberg. Then you've got Haase ahead of Stippler, and Rigon is 6th, and Tappy, having been released from behind the Boots and Gignon racing car, starts to pull away. Great move that by Duncan Tappy. Straight away there's a gap. The next target for Duncan Tappy is to lap the car out of the same team, Edward Mondron at the wheel of number 15, who's been a regular in the championship all year, running now in the Pro-Am class. So there is Tappy for ART, the best we have seen out of that car all season, and you've got to say collectively this race is the best we've seen out of the McLarens all year. Not just one doing a good stint, but across the board, all the McLarens looking like you've really been expecting them to look all season, but now they're delivering. Mondron keeping out of the way, so past him has gone Tappy, past him has gone Amberg, and then Haase and Stippler will try to get through, and way wide there goes Edward Mondron, gets out of the way of all of the quicker cars behind him. Davide Rigon is still hunting for a way to get past Frank Stippler, but he can't do it. Now, what's this rain doing? We've heard about the spots in the pit lane. Is it coming to anything? There's nobody really with the wipers on for the moment, so it doesn't look as though it's amounting to anything, even though it's dark overhead. Maybe when this rain does come, it's going to come with real force. There is the number 6 Audi, Frank Stippler running 5th. Marcus Paltela is still 10th. Now, his lap times are a little bit better than those ahead of him for the moment. A lot of it's dependent on traffic, of course, but Paltela, last time, closed by over a second on Greg Franchi. Now, just under 20 minutes remain of this middle hour of the race. Our team's now starting to think about bringing drivers in where they can and get the quicker driver in, as long as, of course, they don't exceed that maximum stint allowance for the very end, might well, within the next 8 or 9 minutes, have the next round of pit stops, so that the faster driver can do 70 up to the end of the race. So Stef Dusseldorp in the number 7 Hexis McLaren is leading away from number 12, the McLaren of ART Grand Prix. Duncan Tappy at the wheel of it, leading the Pro-Am class, and then 3rd and 4th, Zoel Amberg McLaren ahead of number 1 Christopher Hauser in the Audi. There you can see the 6th place Kessel Racing Ferrari, Davide Rigon. All of these cars evenly matched, but as we've seen in previous rounds, the balance of performance works out so well that once they've got themselves together, it's really hard to make progress through that traffic. Although Rigon is not giving up, pulls out, pulls back in again. Former Super League champion, looking for a way past Frank Stippler, and he's not yet able to find a way through. Again, he has a look on the inside up towards turn 3, can't do it. Over the line has just gone Marcus Palteler, and that lap was again quicker. He's catching Franchi once again. Edward Sandstrom, by the way, who is in 7th, he's lapping quicker than this gaggle ahead of him, and so the number 2 Audi is catching up now onto the 6th place Ferrari. So Edward Sandstrom, number 2, don't discount him, he's getting closer on the number 71 Ferrari. And let's have a look at the very bold effort of Duncan Tappy. Look at the way the car squirms. This is how he got 2nd place, round the outside, hard on the brakes from 216 kilometres down to just over 70 kilometres an hour through that corner, round the outside, just about a car's width to go right round the outside of Zoel Amberg. And given the way the car quivered and squirmed under braking, that was a very good save and a very good pass by Duncan Tappy. Move of the race, I think, possibly that. Gregoire Demustier approves of it, that's for sure. Off the road is Freddie Bath with the Emile Frey Jaguar. The XK has gone for a spin, and that's coming out of turn 13, isn't it? Near pit in. Gets going again. The train of cars for 3rd to 6th goes past. And where in the background, relative to them, is Edward Sandstrom in the next of the Audis. We don't get him in shot just yet. He is closing, but he's not yet close enough to really be part of that group. Davide Rigon is right on the tail this lap of Frank Stippler, and he pulls out to the outside line, heading up towards turn 1. Can he go round the outside there? No, he can't. He needs a much, much tighter line up on the inside out of turn 2. He rides the curve, but he can't do it. And part of the problem there is that they have to lap the 49 Jean-Marc Bachelier Ferrari, so the line, the gap that might have been there disappears, because they all have to use that to get past the slower car. There is number 20, Jean-Luc Bobelic, who has just got himself past Mike Wainwright to go 21st overall. They're Pro-Am cars, and they're being lapped by the Pro-Am leader, Duncan Tappy. Up to 2nd in Pro-Am, by the way, has now come Simon Knapp, number 37 in the DB Motorsport BMW, and 3rd in Pro-Am, number 19 Oliver Morley. Can we get him on the podium once again, the Mancunian driver? This is the overall situation, where you've got McLaren, the top 3. The Hexis car ahead of the ART car, ahead of the Buxen-Gignon entry. Then 4th and 5th, 2 of the 3 Team WRT Audis, and 6th, number 71, the Kessel Racing Ferrari. In 7th place is number 2, Edward Sandstrom's Team WRT Audi. 8th is the Porsche, which hasn't really made progress in this stint. Xavier Marson ahead still, Greg Franchi, and then only in 10th place is Marcus Palteler. Are we seeing a championship disappearing from Marc VDS, even though the team took 2 wins, and remember, maximum points at the 6-hour mark in the Spa 24 hours, a notional 3rd win if you like. And lower down, we've got people having dropped a lap within the overall classification. Davide Rigon very nearly dropped the lot going towards turn 15. He went really wide going into the corner. Coming up over the line now, the number 6 Audi pals over the timing line. And he's up alongside number 1, and Rigon is trying to get past all of them. And as they dive up towards turn 1, number 1 has kept its place, but Rigon has finally got ahead. We get reports of more rain around the circuit now, so the rain is certainly coming. But to recap, Davide Rigon has now got himself up ahead of Frank Stippler, but Christopher Hauser has kept his place. And now, with the road getting wetter, they've also got more traffic to work a way through. Wipers are on, look, and on this section of the circuit, it's wet and slippery now. Sideways there is Edward Mondron, as he is lapped by Frank Stippler. So Stippler drops back behind Rigon, but Hauser fends them all off. And what happened in all of that was that Hauser had to get past Stippler, who was ahead of him over the timing line, had to retake that place, and then Stippler also had to make sure that he didn't get caught up in the battle with the Ferrari. The fact that number 6 has dropped away by a couple of places isn't the end of the world. Significantly, it's ahead of number 3 still, as Ollie Jarvis gets ready to take over from Stippler, as up on the inside of Zoel Amberg goes Christopher Hauser. Amberg struggling in the wet because Rigon has got past him as well. And now the circuit is getting more and more treacherous. We are 13 minutes away from the end of this second hour when you'd expect people to come into the pit lane. So can they tiptoe round on slicks? Are they still going to work? Do they still have enough temperature to work? As another place is lost by Zoel Amberg as now Stippler goes up on the inside. Slippery surface flag being shown. The drivers know exactly why, because now this rain that has come is making the road slippery. So Zoel Amberg has lost a whole heap of places on that lap as he tiptoes round. So the drivers, although they want to be in and going on to wet tyres, cannot do so just yet, partly because the slicks are still going to have some temperature and still work, but the maximum, as I said earlier, that the third driver can do is 70 minutes, and therefore at the moment there's 72 minutes of the race remaining. If they put them in now, they would go the wrong side of the maximum allowance, and they can't afford to do that. So as the rain increases, they're going to tiptoe round for 1, maybe 2 more laps to be on the safe side. And these slick tyres, although they're not going to be working as well, will still work to a degree because of the temperature that's been built up in them. And rather than me for being out there tiptoeing round now, we're on lap number 64. The race leader is still number 7, Steph Dusseldorp in the Hexis McLaren. The wiper is on as Christopher Hauser sees Davide Rigon working his way through traffic. Now, since it started to rain, Rigon has been the real hero, because look at this, the Ferrari up into 3rd place, remember? A few laps ago I was talking about it being 6th and on the back of the queue and not making progress. Well, with the Audis not wanting to make a real fight out of it, and also the McLaren of Zoel Amberg struggling in the wet, Davide Rigon is up into 3rd spot now and gaining ground, and lots of people really struggling for traction in the background. Expect pit stops this time around. The teams are ready for driver changes, but is it wet enough yet to go onto wet tyres? We'll see when we get to the pit stops themselves. Certain parts of the circuit look bad, others less so. There's number 1, running 4th, Christopher Hauser. Behind him is Frank Stippler. But Davide Rigon then up into 3rd place now, pulling away from them, making good ground in the Ferrari, and closing on Duncan Tappy, who understandably doesn't want to drop the McLaren off the road and risk everything they've achieved thus far. So we are at 70 minutes and 30 seconds now. Are we going to get people in this time? No, they're going to give it 1 more lap. They may even, of course, go to the actual hour mark itself. We've got 1 car that's just come in, which is 57, Eugenio Amos. That will put the car now in the hands of Alessandro Bonaccini, and remember, that's on target to win Pro-Am in the championship. It's going to lose places while the pit stops now cycle through, but it's still looking very, very good for that squad. So we've got, at the moment, the race with 70 minutes remaining. There is the 57 pit stop. Tyres going on now. Are they going on to slicks or wets? We didn't get a chance to look, but it would, I think, still be good enough to go on to slicks. Let's see what they've got in their hands. It still looks like slick tyres. Yeah, so it's still slicks. It's not wet enough yet to risk going on to wet tyres, because if the rain doesn't come in any more volume, you're just going to chew them up. But is there a problem on the left rear corner? Something has dropped out. There's a wet tyre there, but something looks like it may have gone wrong at the back of the car. This may well need investigation. Slicks off, and the car's going to its garage. The car's going to go to its garage. This is big, big drama in the championship. It's been running so strongly, and seemingly now the Vita 4-1 car's going to have to drop down. They'll twist it round on the jacks there and wheel it back into the garage. They found something in the left rear corner. As off the road has gone Zoel Amberg. He's back on again. But that's the Vita 4-1 Team Italy, rather, pit garage is now the scene of real drama. That's where Haley's going to be heading, no doubt, as they try and get to the bottom of this problem. And are we looking at another championship drifting away from a team? We think Mark VDS is in strife as far as winning in the Pro Cup is concerned, and now, possibly, after all they've done such a great job all race, is it going the way, not of Vita 4-1, but of that car, of AF Corsa, the black Ferrari? Is it something in the suspension? Let's see. Were they on the same lap, those cars? They were, and so now car 52 takes the place. And what are they doing with the other tyres? They've had slicks on. Are they going to go to wet, or are they going to give each corner a check to see that it's not got the same issue? Is this brakes? The team is hard at work, but this is not looking good as far as the championship is concerned. And after what it looked like a very good race, there was no real evidence of the car struggling. Yeah, brake disc comes off. So there was no real evidence of the car struggling in that stint. All of a sudden, at the pit stops, it goes horribly wrong if they discover a problem. 52, Louis Maciel still tiptoeing round. The first part of the lap getting very wet indeed. Off the road is number 20 Ferrari, which is the Sofrev car of Jean-Luc Bobelic out of the Pro-Am class, and that's slithered off the road. So you can see now exactly how heavy the rain is. That is wet for definite. If it's like that all the way around the lap, it's got to be wet. Now, the Vita 4-1 team, the wheel has been damaged. They don't know why, so they're checking, I suspect, under the wheel arch to see whether there's something that's caused the damage in the car rather than just wear and tear out on the circuit. And out on the circuit now, it is very wet and it is very horrible. And 57 is still in the pit lane, so now it's looking very, very good for AF Corsa, especially with the fastest driver in that car to get into the car for Pierre Guidi. Audi ready, and the wets are there as well. So which one is going to be in first, we'll see in a second or two. Steph Dusseldorp still tiptoeing around in the leading car. There's number 1, Christopher Hauser. So wet tyres are ready. Well, they all come pouring in this time at the 66-minute mark. The whole queue of cars coming in. So you've got Porsche, Mercedes, Oliver Morley. You can see the Mercedes comes in this time. Duncan Tappy goes a little bit wide at turn 15 up the inside there, tries to go Christopher Hauser. Both of them staying out for another lap. Davide Rigon has come over the line up into second place now, having got past Tappy and pulled away from him. Rigon is excelling in these conditions. Through in third place goes Tappy, through in fourth place goes Hauser. Stippler is in. So the number 6 Audi has come in. Franchi is in, and also now number 3 has pitted to give way to Maxime Martin. So drivers making pit stops. There's Duncan Tappy in the meantime. So for the moment, number 1 is staying out there, Christopher Hauser. Now, why have they not brought him in? Are they waiting to see whether it goes fully wet for a change to wet tyres? Is it because they don't want all the cars in the pit lane at the same time? They brought 6 in last time. They're keeping him out there. As I mentioned a moment or two ago, Maxime Martin has taken over the BMW because it's come in for its last pit stop. They're doing the tyre change now. So that car again drops down the order while it's in the pit lane. So Lamberg is in number 5 as well, as again Tappy runs a little bit wide. But surely Hauser will be in this time. It was also a fairly long stint by Christopher Mees, wasn't it? So they need to make sure that the minimum time is done in the car by Hauser in this middle stint. Stippler handing over to Jarvis, goes up the pit lane. Oliver Morley has handed the car over, number 19 Mercedes, to Sean Edwards. That goes up the pit lane, and Alessandro Pierguidi sets off into the race now, potentially to bring the Pro-Am title all of a sudden to AF Corsa rather than Vita 4-1, for whom it was looking a shoe-in a few laps ago. Now, lots of team managers are being summoned to the race director, none of which are affecting the leading situation for the moment. There's Maxime Martin out on track. And the number 1 Audi is going to pit this time, as also in comes Duncan Tappy. So Christopher Hauser will come in to give way to Stefano Telli, and for the last, what have we got, hour and 4 minutes of the race, it's going to be wet. Will it get wetter, will it get drier? Are we going to see people have to come in again for tyres if conditions improve? Of course, the race leader has yet to come in. Steph Dusseldorp has yet to serve his minimum driving time and therefore give way to Fred Makovici, and the safety car is on standby, I'm told. Now, is that for the weather conditions rather than for a car off the road? It's been declared a wet race, which normally means it's up to the teams to manage the tyres and for the drivers to manage the throttle against the wet road. Ortelli into number 1, but safety car on standby, says the legend on the timing screen. News from the pit lane, it's not just rain, it's hail, in fact, that they are suffering down there. So there's the number 3 BMW with Maxime Martin at the wheel. So where does this put him? Against the number 1 Audi, which is rejoining now. And Maxime Martin will be closer, but he's not yet at the end of the lap. And we do get the safety car on track. We do get the safety car. And that's going to help the number 3 BMW, isn't it? Because it's going to bring it nearer to the number 1 Audi. There is the safety car, and it's going to collect, not the race leader, it's going to collect a line of cars near the head of which with the number 1 Audi, and therefore Maxime Martin is going to be much, much closer to that car, and the leader is in. The leader has come into the pit lane for Dusseldorf to give way to Fred Makovici. There he is. And how is this going to affect them on the safety car situation? We'll see as they work their way around the next lap. Can the McLaren get out, or is it going to be trapped in the pit lane before the cars come round again? This may have just gone against the leading car. We'll wait and see. Pit stop is being undertaken now, but that car is still in the pit lane as the safety car has picked up everybody else. So there's the car that led when it came in. Steph Dusseldorf has given way to the pole man, Fred Makovici. And wet tyres are brought out for that car. Now there is the safety car. If the McLaren is allowed out before the Crocodile gets round the lap, then it's all good. If it's held there until the Crocodile has gone past, they're in big, big strife. The car has dropped down, and a Ferrari has arrived ahead of it. As you can see, the number 10 Sofrev car that delays it just a little bit. Now, are the pit lane lights on red, or is it going to be allowed out? It's allowed out. Cars are still making their way up the pit lane, so it's okay. That car will keep its race lead and will join in at the back of the Crocodile and be there for the best part of a lap ahead of the opposition. Now, 71, Davide Rigon has yet to serve his second pit stop, has he not? Because that car was started by Daniel Zampieri, and so yes, Stefano Gattuso is due in for the last stint, and that car is yet to come in. So safety car then is on track, 49, which will, for the last stint in the race, go the way of Howard Blank. Number 2 Audi has just come in, Edward Sandstrom. And I'll give you the positions at the end of the next lap, because it's all rather dependent now on who is where in the queue behind the safety car. But I think Hexis have got away with it as the team wanted, in other words, not being impeded in the pit lane, and therefore it's going to be an even bigger lead, because they will join the back of this queue of cars and be a long, long way clear. They were about half a lap up anyway. They're going to be nearly a full lap up on the opposition, potentially, at the end of the next lap. Number 2 Audi is just leaving the pit lane, the Edward Sandstrom car, which will now go the way of Laurens Vanthoor. And is he going to get out in time? Let's just have a look at this. Yes, he is. There's the Audi, and there in the background, look, is the safety car. Now, is this purely for the rain? I can't see anybody off the road. I've not had a report of anybody off the road. And with the rain having fallen heavily, the race director has called the safety car. But that surprises me, because it's not that bad. It's a bit bad, yes, but it's not bouncing off the road like it was at Spa, for example, earlier on in the year. So the field goes through, and it is number 7 leading the way, now with Fred Makovici at the wheel. And the safety car, I'm told from the media centre, is because of the state of the track. The race director has decided that because it's hailing in certain parts, it's too dangerous to let the cars continue under natural conditions, so the race neutralised on safety grounds just for the moment. So at the moment, it is the number 7 McLaren leading the way by effectively a lap over number 2 Audi, but that, of course, has still got to do its outlap after its pit stop. Then in third place, number 71 is barging into the stop board is Marco Ciocci. There's Jack Gerber ready to take over. So Ferrari third, yet to make its second pit stop. Fourth is the number 1 Audi. Fifth, riding shotgun, is number 6, and 6th is number 3, which is the Marcus Paltela, now Maxime Martin car. And the safety car letting the field go through so it can pick up the race leader. Now, it's not essential to pick up the race leader, it is preferred, and the race director is electing to do that ready for the restart. So everybody is being allowed through, and then it will pick up car number 7, and so on the restart we'll have, if you like, the right order with everybody queued up behind the race leader. Wet tyres going on for Jack Gerber. There's the safety car, which has now got Fred Makovici behind. And where in the queue is everybody else? Where's the second or third place car? Well, we're looking for the opposition, and this potentially now will bring the gap down, won't it? Because the traffic is released round from the safety car to close onto the McLaren. So the big margin that had been extended is going to be reduced. It also is going to take a lap or two to get everybody back into formation. You can see, because people have been released from behind the safety car, there are still some large gaps around the circuit between pockets of cars. So what have we got? 58 minutes to go, 69 laps done, safety car on track. Up towards turn 14 now goes the safety car. News from the pit lane is of a jammed wheel nut on the 57 Ferrari, and that was some of the damage caused that was being attended to. The car has just left the pit lane, in fact 57, with Bonaccini at the wheel of it, but it has now done 63 laps, and 52 has done 68. Unless 52 retires, championship's over for that car you're looking at. So he is on track, but as I say, 5 laps behind. It's a forlorn hope. They're just going to keep going and hope that other people fall off the road ahead of them. And Alessandro Pierguidi can be fairly fiery, but I think he knows the job that he's got to do. And so after a dominant class lead early on, 5-lap deficit now is not going to be done, is it? Bitter disappointment for Vita 4-1 Team Italy after a really good race and a good season too. And Marc VBS, another team, staring a defeat in the face, although 4th now is number 1 and 6th now is number 3. So in other words, the gap is reduced between them. 4th for the Audi would be 111 points, and for the BMW in 6th it would be 107 points, but the gap is down between them. So can now Maxime Martin live up to his bill matter of being this real star turn? I've referred to him this year already as the secret weapon, and once he's released, the car just charges up the order. Well, he's going to have to really drive it like never before. You can see the way the drivers are weaving around to try and generate some warmth into the tyres ready for the restart, and the restart will be a few laps away, I would have thought, because we're still waiting for some of the cars to catch the queue, including 71 Ferrari that's just gone across the line. Quite a long way back. Through goes Ortelli, through goes Maxime Martin, and between the pair of them, between numbers 1 and 3, is the number 6 Audi of Oliver Jarvis. So Maxime Martin is going to face the same problem that other BMW drivers have faced in this race, and that's trying to work through traffic. And there is some of the AstroTurf that's been lifting on the last corner, and the marshals in some cases are trying to stick it down, and others rip it up and get it out of the way. Pro-Am standings at the moment, number 12 leading the way, Gregoire de Moustier, ahead of the number 37 BMW of Simon Knapp. It's come into contention. That's got to do a second pit stop though. 3rd in the class is 51 with Giuseppe Giro at the wheel, and then 4th in the class is the number 19 Mercedes Sean Edwards. That's going to be one to watch. 5th in the class is 34, which is now the BMW, the Porsche I should say, the Hans Vanson Beltoise, and Julian Draper 5th in the McLaren. So there's quite a lot to pan out of that, although Gregoire de Moustier has this big lead there in the number 12 McLaren. It's all the yellow flags wave. Number 1 Audi, number 2 Audi, and there is quite a big gap still, and a lot of traffic between the number 6 Audi and number 3 Maxime Martin. Now you've got some of the cars not going quickly enough to catch the Crocodile, and it's 41 there, look, which is Philippe Guillac in the Gentleman Trophy class leading car, that's being encouraged to go quicker and catch up to those cars already behind the safety car, and he's not doing so. Although, to be fair, the safety car is miles ahead even of number 71 Ferrari of Stefano Gattuso. There it is, that's gone across the line. Gattuso is a quick driver. Of course, you are told under the safety car to moderate your speed, but look in the background, this long line of cars coming into view, headed by Philippe Guillac. He kind of needs to do a qualifying effort now to get close enough to the safety car. Let's hear, though, from the race-leading team. Philippe Dumas runs the Hexis Racing team. He's trying to keep dry and also talk to Haley.
Philippe, earlier on in the season, Hexis truly proved that this track is a McLaren track, and now, so far this weekend, you dominated the Blancpain Endurance Series. It must feel good to be here.
Yeah, it's good to be here. No, it's good fun. It's good fun for all the guys and for McLaren as well. You can see that all the cars are quite competitive here. But we show until yesterday that we are quite good and quite easy. So we'll see until the end. It's quite a shame to have this safety car and the raid, but it's racing, so we'll see.
How will you improve the gap now that the safety car has damaged that slightly for you?
Yeah, of course, it's not good, but again, it's racing, and we have Makoviec in the car. Parente did a brilliant job, and Düsseldorf as well, so I'm confident.
Thank you.
There's the Pro-Am leading McLaren, which is Gregoire de Musquier back behind the wheel of it. The lead gap, heard Haley touching on it, with Philippe Dumas saying how you're going to improve the gap. It was 44 seconds a while ago, it was down to 8, thanks to the safety car. And the real beneficiary is number 2, because Laurens Vanthoor, because of when that car pitted relative to the safety car, Laurens Vanthoor in number 2, who's in a car that's really been nowhere all day, is up into 2nd place. Now, out of all of that, they need, of course, to get that car to drop behind number 1. So when we go back to racing, expect a bit more shuffling of the order, so that car number 1 outscores number 2. Therefore, it isn't that car that Hexes need to be fearful of, and the car behind it, number 71, is a long way back, half a minute back, so I don't think the McLaren is going to be caught even with this safety car period, because the gap's going to be too great for the number 71 Ferrari to make up, and the Audi that is close is going to have to sacrifice its position to help car number 1. So Hexes should be safe as a team. Over the timing line go the race leading train of cars. 51.5 minutes of the season remains. And I would suggest, looking out of the window, that it's a little bit better or less bad weather-wise than it was a few minutes ago. And indeed, the safety car is in at the end of this lap. Safety car is in this time, as we have a replay here of the number 3 BMW and number 12 Gregoire de Musquier spinning on the approach to turn 8, and that of course is behind the safety car. So de Musquier has a spin, he just ran a bit wide and got it on the wet painted curb, and de Musquier rotates, gets himself back onto the circuit, but of course he was lost places. Now you're not meant to overtake under the safety car, you can't really do much about it when the guy ahead spins out of your way, can you? So safety car's going to be in this time, and that spin, has that cost them the class lead? No, it's not, but it's put the 37 BMW right onto their tail. So 37, which was Jochen Habertz, then Simon Knapp, Andrew Danilou to do the last stint. And it's not yet come in, has it, that car, for its second stop. To check that, Simon Knapp still being shown on the screen as being behind the wheel of it. But I would imagine that BMW is going to be a car that drops away come what may in the last stint. In Pro-Am, this is how we're looking now, with Hommerson and Mackiel set to be the champions, ahead of the absent Andrea Bertolini, and then behind him, Amos Bonaccini and Petrobelli. That jammed wheel nut and the damage on the left rear corner of the car, having cost them 5 laps, means that they are in big, big trouble, and unless 52 breaks, then they're not going to be able to score enough points to overhaul that in the championship. So the safety car will be in this time. Behind Amos Bonaccini and Petrobelli will be Beltoise and Hassid, tying on points with de Musquier and Tappi, who of course currently on track lead the class. They've done all they can, but they will have gained a position within the class situation as a result of what has been a great effort by both of them. I know Gregoire de Musquier has had that spin, but he's escaped lightly as the safety car peels back in, so we're just about ready to go racing once again. And now, at a proper race pace, look at the difference between Fred Makoviecki as a pro driver, who gets onto the power straight away, and the gentleman racers behind, because number 10, Ferrari, which is the next one in the queue, is nowhere as they come out of the last corner. Gabriel Balthazar at the wheel of that car, holding up everybody else as he comes over the line, and in fact losing a place on track, wasn't he there? Because number 42, Paul Lanchet, got ahead of him, I would say, even before they got to the timing line, so that might take a little bit of explaining. So now, in the gloom, in the wet, what can we expect out of people in terms of trading places? The number 2 Audi still running second, and these are how the Pro Cup points would look, with at the moment the Audi team taking just a 1-point advantage to win the class in the championship over the number 3 BMW. So Fred Makoviecki it is who leads on track. Laurens Vanthoor is second. Stefano Gattuso, the number 71 Ferrari, is third. And there's the number 1 Audi. Desperately trying to work his way through traffic. Stefan Ortelli. Mike Wainwright's McLaren to the left, and he's got past next one up the road is the Audi in the hands of Craig Wilkins. He should be able to go storming past that car. He's in the spray, hunting for traction, hunting for visibility at the end of the back straight now, going down towards turn number 9. Ferrari of Gabriel Balthazar runs out wide. Ortelli scything his way through traffic. This is really, really tricky now. You're in traffic, you're in the wet. And there is Sean Edwards coming up alongside the number 30 Audi. Craig Wilkins back at the wheel of it, where Sean Edwards lying. He's 15th overall at the moment, and the Mercedes dives up the inside. Sean Edwards is going to be one to watch very definitely in these conditions now as the Mercedes worked its way through traffic. Car number 1, Stefan Ortelli then, heading up towards the completion of the lap. On track, he's chasing Stefano Gattuso, but Gattuso is going to be gifted a place inevitably soon by the number 2 Audi as they try and get car 1 further up the order. Over the timing line goes 71, so the Ferrari is through, and that lap is a 54, so he's not actually catching the Audi at the moment. I would say the rain's getting worse once again, in fact, now. It's getting darker, it's getting wetter, so although the race director has let them go, are we going to have the safety car out again if the weather worsens? They're all on wet tyres now, or they should be. Can't imagine anybody was bold enough to stay on slicks, and there are cars running off the road there. Craig Wilkins is one of them. And all that plays into the hands of Maxime Martin because he's able to work his way through traffic. Doesn't affect things for the championship. He's not gained places, but at least he's got through some of the traffic. They're on board with Martin as he runs wide at certain places, looking for a little bit more grip, which is often the case in wet weather. At the moment, he's trying to find the extra point that he needs to make them a tie on points for the championship. If it's a tie, it'll be championship to the BMW on a tie break, and number 9 has had a spin by the look of it. Mike Wainwright's off the road, and the bronze graded driver is trying to get back onto the circuit. That is heading down towards turn 5, isn't it? And he got it wrong at 4 by the look of it. So Mike Wainwright is off the road trying to rejoin, but yes, Maxime Martin somehow needs to get himself past the number 6 Audi in the hands, and there it is, of Oliver Jarvis, because if he can do that, then he'll tie on points with Audi number 1 and win with a greater number of victories across the course of the season. And the gap between them, last lap through, was coming down. See what the interval is when it's next updated on the timing display, but for the moment, car 7 of Fred Makovici leads the way. Now, last time, Maxime Martin was 4.4 seconds behind Jarvis. That's what he's got to try and make up, and then attack. But number 6 just riding shotgun against car number 1. The BMW, though, has been hoping for a wet race, and Maxime Martin, as we saw at Spa, is great in the wet, so let's now see what he can do. As across the line has gone Oliver Jarvis, across the line now goes Maxime Martin. And the gap I'll give you in a moment, but that lap from Martin was a 53.5. He's closer, and so the gap now is 3.9 seconds. He's getting closer and closer all the while to the Oliver Jarvis-driven Audi, and so it's now not just for position, it's for the championship. And Vincent Voss is looking a bit more stressed than he did early on, because the race now perhaps is coming to Marc VDS. The conditions are favouring the car and the driver, and the safety car has also changed the order, and that car really did jump up the field. Vincent Voss was saying to me this morning he didn't really want wet, it wasn't what the Audis needed. Well, he's got it. There's 71, which currently is in 3rd place. Down to 4. Audi number 1 is ahead, so on this lap Gattuso has dropped back behind Stefan Ortelli rather than gaining a place against Vantor, but you're going to have those cars trade places any moment, are you not? Because they need to get number 1 further up the order, and as they come down towards turn 9, there it is, an easy pass. Stefan Ortelli goes up into 2nd place, so that extends the gap on points in the championship. And it also means there are now 2 Audis that Maxime Martin has somehow got to find a way past within 44 minutes. He's not even caught up to them yet, but when he does, life's going to be difficult, that's for sure. So, number 1 up into 2nd place, and that's fine, because the point gap over the number 3 Marc VDS BMW is going to be enough to give that car the championship. Now, bear in mind as well that 71 Ferrari still wants places out of this race, and Stefano Gattuso is now down in 4th, having been jumped by Ortelli, who's going to have gained 2 spots on this lap. And we've got a drive-through penalty being offered for 3 cars, all 4 speeding in the pit lane. One is the 42 Ferrari, one is the 34 Porsche, and the other is the number 49 AF Corsa Ferrari. It doesn't affect anything to do with the championship outright for the Pro Cup or the overall situation for the race, but you are going to have some cars dropping away now with pit lane infringements. Stefano Gattuso gets a little bit crossed up there, and Oliver Jarvis tries to make a move on the inside for fourth place, going up towards turn 2, can't do it. Gattuso fends him off. What about at turn 3? Jarvis up onto the curb, and behind them, a lap back, is Sean Edwards, who is currently running third within Pro-Am, and his next target is Andrew Danilou for a class position. All a bit nervous at Team WRT at the moment, as they're trying to go to the inside line now up towards turn 6 is Jarvis. He's done it. He's gone through up into fourth place ahead of Stefano Gattuso, and there off the road has gone the number 2 Audi. Number 2 spins. Has he got back on in front of Maxime Martin is the question. The car had a spin exactly there yesterday in the dry. It spun again in the wet. So we need to see whether BMW is relative to a still sliding Audi that's off the road once again in the hands of Laurens Vanthoor. He doesn't spin this time, but he put down the power. The car got away from him. This is the BMW that's further up the road, and that's Ortelli who's had a moment, and there's another car off, and there's a yellow flag waving. That's all down at turn 9. It's one of the Ferraris that's gone off, and I think that could be 57 that's off the road. And 50, Jack Gerber has got a problem. Look at the left rear corner, just like 38 Ferrari had early on in the race. Number 30, Craig Wilkins, recovering after a spin. It's all happening because of the rain now. It's so wet. People are really struggling to keep the cars on the road. Some are doing a grand job, others are really struggling. So what has that situation with Ortelli having run wide and the spin for car 2 done to the overall situation? It is 57 that's off the road. Look, that's also got left rear breakage, and that's definitely the end of the championship for Bonaccini and friends. That car's going no further. It's also brought out a yellow flag. And so, over the line, Ortelli goes through now in second place. Jarvis runs third. Gattuso is fourth. Maxime Martin is fifth. And he is 2 seconds away from Ortelli. So Maxime Martin, as he goes over the timing line, has got to get past the Ferrari, first of all, in the hands of Stefano Gattuso. Number 2, Laurens Vanthoor. Then the spin was costly. It's put him back behind the Mark VDS BMW, so that is no longer really that car of any help as far as Team WRT is concerned. Now, at the moment, Ortelli running second would give him 114 points. Martin fifth would give him 109. So it's still an Audi championship, but as the Ferrari goes wide, the BM spins. Maxime Martin has lost it. 360 degrees. That's the only mistake we've seen all year. He's got the car going again. Has he lost any places? He's certainly lost time ahead of him. Gattuso got sideways, and Maxime Martin got a little bit caught out by that, and he spun. And that mistake, as I say, I think it's the only one we've really seen all season, could well have cost him the championship, as Mike Wainwright has had a drama and the car won't restart. There's flame out of the back, and another spin. Number 5, Andy Soucek, goes off, coming through a corner and finding a car stuck on the road. And look, they're just arriving backwards now. If the safety car came out before, surely it's got to come out again. I'm looking at the man on the gantry on the start line who's got his yellow flag in hand, and we are short. Yes, we go safety car. It's come up on the screen as a spin for Gregoire de Musquier. The safety car is being deployed. The Gentleman Trophy leading in the championship, Audi, is off as well. He's just hit the McLaren. So Philippe Guillac, as I say, the car that's leading it in the championship, has hit the stationary McLaren. We do go safety car yet again. And there's no option, is there? Oh, I think that bit of contact has bump started the McLaren. It drives away from the scene of the crime now. But it's partly with cars littering the circuit. It's partly because of the weather. And so, after all of the drama, we go safety car again. Number 5 has gone off. I think we saw that. And look at the damage. This car's got to finish to win the class in the championship. And Philippe Guillac, with front damage, may not go any further. Now, let's just see, because the Porsche class opposition is out of the race. If that car doesn't finish, has it done 75% of the distance? That's one for the timekeepers to resolve. But if the Audi doesn't restart, it needs to have done 75% to be classified. Otherwise, the class and the championship will be won by the JB Motorsport Audi. That Audi is limping. Philippe Guillac trying to get it going again and head back towards the pit lane. And they've got to get the car back in the race to be on the safe side. You can see the front damage. It is moving, but not very quickly. Right, we've gone safety car for the second time. And this again will affect gaps between cars. We've just had over the timing line go Stefano Ortelli, Oliver Jarvis, Maxime Martin, now second, third and fourth. Mark Goossens is up into 5th place now in 75, and Stefano Gattuso has dropped back into 6th in the 71 Ferrari. So there is number 1, champion-elect Stefano Ortelli As you see the number 57 Ferrari stuck by the side of the road. That will be retrieved, I would have thought, while we have this safety car period. But with cars just skating off the road, understandable that the race director has thrown the safety car like this. There's a rather worried looking Bas Linders. Well, the car is up into 4th place, 111 points. Ortelli, second, 114. They need somehow to gain one more place. If one more place can be gained by the BMW, they tie on points and they win on a tie-break. So Oliver Jarvis, who is the man at the moment, in a sense, he is the man who will determine the championship. If he's overtaken, it goes to BMW. If he's not overtaken, it stays with Audi. This stint, however many racing laps he gets in, is going to be a hugely important one. Oliver Jarvis could well determine the outcome of the championship, and Vantour is off in the gravel. That's a second spin, but this one is done under the safety car and he's off the road. He may be pushed out of the gravel and be able to rejoin from there, but it shows how bad the conditions are if a pro driver gets it wrong and flings it into the gravel under the safety car. To go back to my point about Oliver Jarvis, as I say, he is now the man who is the most important bloke in the place. It is up to him in a sense to determine who's the champion. If he's overtaken, it goes to BMW. If he stays where he is, it goes to Audi. So the field, you can see how wet the road is, turning its way up through turns 1, 2 and 3 behind the safety car. Now what have we got in terms of a gap between Fred Makovic and everybody else? Are we on the restart going to have an even closer situation? It was 8 seconds earlier after the first safety car, and as the field comes over the timing line, we now have it at 2.7 seconds. 2.7 is all that there is between Makovic and Ortelli. So yes, the gap has come down. Is Stefan Ortelli going to try to get past him and increase the margin in the championship? Now, there is Philippe Guillac's car limping to the pit lane. Robert Hissam is no doubt a concerned man. Hayley, what's his state of mind?
Robert, all you need to do is finish the race. What's it looking like for the Audi at the moment?
Well, we've got a problem. Our third driver got tangled up in some wet, and we're trying to get it back to the track now, back to the pits now. We've got to finish 75% of the race, so we're a little bit nervous now. Hopefully, get it fingers crossed and keep it going.
You know the extent of the damage?
I'm not sure. It's just coming in right now, so we'll see when it comes in. Fingers crossed.
Thanks.
Well, there's Laurens Vantour's car in the background. So he's had that spin into the gravel near where marshals were working under a yellow flag. That will not go down the storm in race control. Now it looks as though the rain has eased off a little bit. This is the spin that we saw, first of all, sideways and then spinning was Gattuso. Martin spun, Wainwright spun in the Gulf McLaren. They got going, and then Mike Wainwright is just stuck. He can't get the car going, and that is not where you want to be parked. And just wait and see how many cars, nearly hit it. AF Corsa, Vita 4-1. And then we get one arriving backwards in a second or two, which we saw. There's a spinning Andy Soucek. And Mike Wainwright definitely trying to get going. Just avoided by what I think was the number 17 Ferrari. And then eventually, his worst nightmare in this brown trouser moment arrives. He's collected by another car. And that, there it is the Audi. Bang. It was spinning already and ends up clobbering the parked car, Philippe Guillac. And Craig Wilkins has to avoid as well. So utter mayhem with the weather having turned nasty. Nobody really wanted to come to the pit lane because that would only ruin their race at this stage. So the safety car has slowed everybody right down. Why has it slowed them down so much? Is that because now it wants just one crocodile of cars rather than others going quickly and playing catch-up? I suspect it is, because while they're having to go quickly and catch the queue ahead, there's that risk like we saw for Laurens Vantour of people going off the road. Now what of course we need to see is at the end of the race how many laps have been done by that Audi, and whether it's done, as Robert Hissam was saying, and I made the point earlier, 75% of the race. You don't have to take the flag, you do have to do 75%. If it hasn't, it's the championship lost. So things are turning in Pro Cup, things have turned in Pro Am, things could be turning in the Gentleman Trophy here. Cars going over the timing line with one or two drivers just accelerating as they slow and then burst away to put a bit of warmth into the tyres. The 24 Lamborghini is up into 8th place. Peter Cox the wheel of it, and that's sort of crept back into the picture here thanks to the safety car. 33 minutes of the race remain now. There is the field on the wet road. up through turn 1, with Fred Macavicchi leading Stefano Ortelli. Third is Oliver Jarvis, fourth is Maxime Martin, fifth is Mark Goossens, sixth is Stefano Gattuso. In seventh place is now 66, the Vita 4-1 BMW Frank Kekler. Eighth is Peter Cox, ninth Andy Soucek, and 10th is Gregoire de Moustier, leading Pro-Am ahead of Andrew Danilov, doing a great job hanging on to second in class. 12th overall is Nick Katzberg in the Pro Cup BMW, and then 13th overall and third in Pro-Am is Sean Edwards in the Mercedes, a car I mentioned a little while ago would be one worth watching now that Sean's behind the wheel. Not saying it's not been going well anyway with Steve Jans and with Oliver Morley at the wheel, but Sean's the quickest of the three. How long for the safety car to stay out? This is partly because of car number 2 needing to be retrieved. And the cars paddle around. Even the safety car generating quite a bit of spray. Is Navarra a circuit that drains well? Seemingly, at the moment, there's still a bit of standing water around. And there is number 6, Oliver Jarvis, who, as I say, is now designated the task of keeping Maxime Martin behind him. This is the Santilok Audi that was leading and heading to a championship victory in the Gentleman Trophy. Philippe Guillac can't win the championship because he's not done every round, but he might just have lost it for them, mightn't he, by that spin and then hitting a parked car. Very bad luck for him. There was a car stationary on the road, otherwise he'd have just spun and got away with it. But as he's hit something and lots of frontal damage, Philippe Guillac, who's got to go back out in the car, is now sitting in the pit lane looking rather red-faced, and Robert Hissam is looking very worried. So there is Robert Hissam. Let's see what the mood is in the camp. There's Philippe Guillac sitting in the car. And the Santilok team hard at work to try to get the car back into the race. Just a finish, just 75% will do. Let's try and catch up with Robert Hissam, see if he knows any more. Hayley, it's all yours.
Robert, can you provide us with an update? You're going to be able to fix the Audi?
Well, I'm not sure yet. It looks like there's body damage. Not sure if the radiator's done, but we're working on pretty hard. So, fingers crossed. Let's see.
Thank you.
This safety car is going to help Robert Hissam to an extent, isn't it? Because the pace of the race will be less, the number of laps done will be less, and therefore doing 75% of a safety car affected race is easier than doing 75% of a non-safety car affected race. So there'll be fewer laps done because of the slower pace under the safety car. There is number 2 out of the gravel, and red-faced Laurens Vanthoor heading back to the pit lane, but I would imagine that the race director would want a word with him, because to throw the car into the gravel while the safety car is on track is a bit undercooked. Over the line comes then the safety car now, with Fred Macavicchi still behind, leading the way. Now also, just to add to the melting pot here, have a look what car is second in the queue as they head up towards turn 1. Focus in on that second set of headlights. They belong to a BMW. They belong to a Mark VDS BMW. It's the number 4 car ahead of 2 Audis. Now, it's not by design, I don't think, this, but the way it's panned out is that we've got a BMW which could just hold up the Audis to enable its sister car to catch up. There, look, with 3 back markers to wriggle away through is Maxime Martin. So if the number 4 BMW, which is in the hands now of Nick Katzberg, could do a very good defensive job and keep the traffic stuck there for a lap or 2, that might help Maxime Martin, mightn't it? So it's not just Audi that might be able to play the team game here. Nick Katzberg, who's only raced for the squad once before, and that was in the Zolder 24 Hours, might just earn himself a seat for next year here if he does the job properly. Looking a bit more optimistic for Santilok, isn't it? The role of kitchen towel is certainly coming in very handy. Try and clean the front of the car, but if the radiator hasn't suffered any damage, they're going to get back into the race. We've got just under half an hour to go. Laurens Vanthoor there trying to shake gravel out of the bottom of the Audi. The tank tape special. Philippe Guillac behind the wheel of the Audi, hoping to go back into the race. Audi engineers as well having a look at this and even helping with the sticky tape. White, black, doesn't matter what colour, as long as the car's held together. And as long as the lights work to satisfy the scrutineers as well, then it's going to be okay. It's not a bad job done, actually, by Santilok, that. I know it's been a bit panicky to try and get the car back into the race, but they have done a good job, helped not losing too much time by the slow pace under the safety car. The car goes onto the pit apron. The engine has to be fired up once it is on the pit apron, so they turn it, they drop it down. and it doesn't need anything else doing to it, I don't think. So we're ready to go. The car will drop down. It's then got to fire up on its own. Down it goes. Philippe Geiac fires up the engine, and will be on the radio, no doubt, on this lap to the team to explain to Sansalot how the car feels, what it's doing. And as Philippe Geiac goes up the pit lane, behind you will see the number 2 Audi, because Laurens Vanthoor, out of the gravel, is being allowed back into the race. That car drops down into 23rd place, but it is back in the race. There is a stop-go penalty board being hung out there, for whom I've not been told. The team manager of car 49, that's the Blanc-Bachelier Malagol Ferrari, is being summoned to the race director. And as the safety car goes over the timing line, the yellow flag still wave. And we are down to 27 minutes of the race to go. So the team is being warned about a lot of water on the inside of turn 5. Turn 5 being the corner that, as you saw, caught out Mike Wainwright and Philippe Geiac in the Audi and 1 or 2 others. So they're all being warned about the state of the track, and they all want to go racing, of course. So the last thing that we need is for the race to have to end like this. As we stand now, then it is 114 points going the way of the Audi team, and BMW would have 111, so it would be a 3-point victory between Audi and BMW. Haas at Nice and Ortelli overlined as Martin and Paltela, and then behind them Goossens, Henrici and Marston would go up to 3rd on 72 points, and that Porter is up into 5th place. So that's got better and better and better as the race has worn on. That's crept up the order as well. And then behind you've got the, for this weekend, absent Andrea Piccini ahead of Frank Stippler and Edward Sandstrom. Right, how many more laps do we need out of the safety car? Well, the safety car stays out, and what's going to happen also for Marc Vidiaz? Can they overtake, or the other car block? Haley will find out.
Baz Max has obviously got a lot of work to do, but you do have the other car in front of the Audi.
Yes, it's in front, but it's a tough race. But the Audis are so aggressive. I never seen this from the beginning. I took my start. One and Omi almost pushed me off once, then he pushed me off. I had a puncture because I was past him. He just ran into me. I mean, this is unacceptable. But okay, this is their tactics. We have our own. I just hope that, of course, we have this number 6 Audi between the number 1 and us. And yeah, I'm afraid that this guy will do everything to keep us behind. So hopefully it will be in a sportive way, but I doubt it.
Thank you.
That's about as close to a rant as you can get from Bas Leinders, isn't it? So not impressed with Audi's tactics, and looking very, very worried as well about what's going to happen in the remaining minutes of the race. And there are fewer minutes. Each lap the safety car does is a problem for the Marc Vidiaz team, of which Bas Leinders is the team principal, because it deprives Maxime Martin of another racing lap to try and move the car up the order. And the Audi he's talking about is number 6, Oliver Jarvis. Interesting that Bas Leinders mentions a puncture, because we didn't see him come in and have the tyre changed. A slow puncture maybe, but he coped with that at least within his stint. But anyway, contact he has cited. In the Pro-Am category, it would be the championship for Nick Commerson and Louis Mathiels over Andrea Bertolini, who could miss 2 rounds and still finish 2nd here, couldn't he? Ahead of Eugenio Amos, Alessandro Bonaccini, who's binned it, and Giacomo Petrobelli, who did a very good first stint. So that's how it would look for the top 3, and they would be just 1 point ahead of the Ludovic Badet, Jean-Luc Bobolic, Patrice Goela Ferrari, unless that gains another place. Now that at the moment is up behind Giuseppe Chiero, so it could yet change, couldn't it, for 3rd and 4th within the class in the championship. Gregoire de Moustier and Duncan Tappy set for equal 5th on 58 points. Bit of a twitch there, look, from Stefan Ortelli, even behind the safety car. As they feed in the power, the car gets a little bit crossed up. Now let's hear from Vincent Voss, because you've heard Bas Leinders' opinion on all of this. Let's find out from Vincent.
Vince, we've just been speaking to Bas Leinders, and he seems to think that the team are being unsportsmanlike by pushing the BMW off. He feels that the Audi are dominating them, pushing them off the track. What are your views on that?
I think I've seen the BMW number 3 spawning twice in the last few minutes, so I believe it's a lot of water on the track. It looks to be a bit dangerous. Well, I don't know. I am okay if they release. It's just race. We will race till the end.
Will you be blocking with car number 6?
The car number 6 is there to fight, yes.
Thank you.
One question ignored, one question kind of answered. Good try, Haley, well done. So, Bas Leinders, of course, drove in the drive, Vincent, just in case you'd forgotten that bit. So you can't blame what he was doing and the outcome against Marco Bononomi on the rain, because it was in the dry stint. But, yes, as he has just said, number 6 is going to be there to fight, and for fight, Reed become very, very wide and keep Maxime Martin at bay. But how many more laps do we get behind the safety car? It's about to come over the timing line once again, and there's no real let-up in the rain. So do we go to the end like this, which would be a dreadful way to end the championship, or do they release them and just hope for the best? So we know not. For the moment, with the Robert Hissam and Pierre Hershey Audi back on track, it once again looked good to win the Gentleman Trophy in the championship over the Michael Bender Jan Brunstedt Audi. Jochen Mank is not here this weekend, and Daniel De Bruer, Christian Kelder's early retirements, remember, after the puncture and the spin for the 58 Porsche. Gael de Soulier, Gilles Vanelay not here either, their Viper having had a checkered season. We've got number 10 coming into the pit lane, which is the Sofrev Ferrari out of Pro-Am. Currently, that car is quite a long way down the order. So it's serving its pit stop, and there is 52, which is currently running in 16th overall, but is going to be the championship winning car in Pro-Am with Nick Homerson and Louis Machiels, thanks to an assortment of co-drivers set for the championship, and thanks in part also to 57 Ferrari having its problems. So in Pro Cup, on the track, you've got McLaren ahead of Audi. 1.9 seconds is the gap in quotes, because of course it all comes down under the safety car, and I think part of the reason why the safety car is staying out is because there's another couple of cars trying to play catch up, and one of them again is 41 Philippe Gaillac, who was the problem earlier, and behind him is number 2 Laurens Vanthoor. So they would need to either catch up or just be rather ignored and hope that they will not get caught on the first green flag lap of the race. We're not yet having any indication on the timing screen that the safety car will be coming in imminently. So Maxime Martin, as I said earlier, is being denied the chance to gain places while the safety car is on the track like this. So in Pro-Am, Machiels and Homerson looking good for the championship, ahead of Petrobelli, Bonaccini and Amos. And in the pit lane is a frustrated Eugenio Amos. The race, the championship, has gone away from them. He's with Haley.
Eugenio, sadly the championship is no longer in your sight. Can you tell us what happened?
Yeah, the rear left suspension broke and the car now is in the sand, so as you said, the title is gone, and we hope at least to be P3, as you can see over there, at least. But I'm not sure we will manage to be P3. Reasonably, it's going to be P5 or P4.
Thank you.
Big disappointments. Not only not to win the championship, but then with just a few more minutes of the season to go, watch the car tumble down the order. So it looks as though number 10 Ferrari in the pit lane is being retired. Gabriel Balthazar having brought the car in out of 28th place, but it's going into its garage. Well, there you can see the spray generated, you can see the water on the track. It's not letting up, so what does the race director do? Does he just keep them like this to the end? It would be really disappointing to end the championship behind the safety car with nobody having a chance to do any overtaking. But I can't quite see where we go from here, really, unless he's going to now start to get the pace quickened to get warmth into the tyres and then try and give them 10 more racing minutes at the end. But it's only going to be about 4 laps, I would have thought. So this is Stefan Ortelli's view. You can see even at low speed the amount of spray. Stefan Ortelli is quite content to have the race end like this, of course, because it will secure the championship for him. It will be a disappointing way to end the year. Ortelli staring at the back of the number 4 BMW that's 12th and a lap down, but could, of course, get in the way of the Audi if and when we get to a restart. So the cars making their way down towards turn 9 through that tight right-hander, and it's an Audi leading, of course, because it's the Audi safety car ahead of the race-leading McLaren of Fred Makovici. So the race director perhaps doing the right thing in terms of being cautious. Better to have people say, why didn't you restart the race, rather than why did you? You can see it's pretty windy as well as very wet now. Grim conditions to end the season. We started in a similar vein at Monza with a long safety car period and wet, horrible weather. Looks like we're going to bookend the year with those weather conditions. And even the marshals are having a sense of human failure now as they battle under their rather moth-eaten umbrellas out on the circuit. Their 66 BMW, 7th Frank Kekler. Again, there are lots of people that could possibly gain places before the very end. You can see what the weather conditions are like. Rain, cold, windy, grim. And the safety car is about to rattle off another lap, and we're down to 17 more minutes of the season, of the race. Is this the last lap the safety car is going to do? Over the timing line it goes. And so frustrating for everybody involved now that there's just no overtaking permitted. And the championship could end up being in exactly this order in 16.5 minutes' time if we don't get a restart. So, as the cars paddle their way up towards turn 4, let's try and catch up on a few bits and bobs from the pit lane. Hayley's doing her best not only to find out news but keep dry. Hayley, what have you got for us?
Yeah, hey Ada, just an update from the Reiter Engineering Garage. I've just had an interesting conversation with Hans Reiter. They've just brought the Lamborghini into the pit lane to boost the tyre pressure, hoping to avoid aquaplaning out on track, planning on only losing 2 spaces, hopefully, in the race, but benefiting themselves overall.
OK, thanks, Hayley. Good call, that. Yeah, so the car has dropped away. It's down to 11th. So, yeah, it didn't cost them too many spots. But, of course, that plan is all rather dependent on the race restarting. And if the conditions don't improve, the race director is going to struggle to justify restarting it, isn't he? So there you can see some of the teams sheltering on the pit wall under the so-called Pratt purchase. Some of the garages keeping dry there. And we have no news yet as to whether there is going to be, and when there is going to be, the restart. But in these grim conditions, the marshal is holding out the SC board and waving the yellow flags. And looking extremely bedraggled. So Fred Makovici, Alvaro Parent and Steph Dusseldorf, if things were to stay as they are, could be on for a race win, should be on for a race win. And Stefan Ortelli, Christopher Mies and Christopher Hauser for the championship. But when this safety car came out, we had over 20 minutes remaining, well over 20 minutes remaining. Now we're down to just under 15, and the number of laps available to the likes of Maxime Martin to make up places are dwindling. So we still wait to see whether the race director is going to let them go or to call it. But if you're going to get into the last few minutes, there's really little point in persevering behind the safety car, is there, I would have thought. There's the Philippe Guillaume Audi, taped up, still going. Down the field, again a bit strung out as it works its way, in some cases over the timing line, in other cases up towards turn 14. Fred Makovici leading the way from Stefan Ortelli, and in third place, Oliver Jarvis. And Maxime Martin has dropped quite a long way back within the queue of cars to get out of the spray as much as anything. And that's what the state looks like around the circuit. Grey, windy, it's like being anywhere but sunny Spain, isn't it? So in a rain-affected season, it looks like rain, just when you didn't want it to affect the championship, is going to affect the championship. No. Lower down the order in Pro-Am, as there is the 57 Ferrari out of harm's way. It's the number 12 McLaren. Gregoire de Moustier still leading ahead of Andrew Danilov in the DB Motorsport BMW, and third in class, number 19 Sean Edwards in the Mercedes. And the Mark VDS team no doubt getting frustrated as well about this, because it cannot fight for the championship if the race is going to be neutralised like this. And normally, when we know the safety car is due in, it will come up on the screen to tell everybody it will come in at the end of this lap, but there is not any suggestion as yet of that happening. And you can see just how bad the weather is, and it's something that the race director has to wrestle with his conscience over, really, whether to restart the race or whether it's still as dangerous as it was when he called the safety car. If it was dangerous then, it's going to be dangerous now. Stefan Ortelli accelerates out of turn 9 and through turn 10, accelerates to get a bit of warmth into the tyres, slows right down again for turn 11. So that's the scene here at Navarra, this final round of the Blancpain Endurance Series. We are still behind the safety car. We may indeed finish behind the safety car if things don't improve even fractionally. So as the cars currently work lap 88, how are we standing? We've got just, what, 12 minutes of the race to go. The car's coming onto the pit straight once again. And the yellow lights still flash. The best lap set right at the very start by Alvaro Parent. And it's his car that looks as though it is going to be a race winner, with Steph Dusseldorf having done a good middle stint. When the weather turned nasty, he was able to control the conditions, and Fred Makovici we've not really been able to see the best of because of this interrupted, twice interrupted second stint. But the rain, I'm afraid, has rather spoilt the party here, hasn't it? Because we're down to 11 minutes to go. Even if we restarted at the end of this lap, I wouldn't think there's enough opportunity in the race for Maxime Martin to be able to gain places. So I have a feeling that we are going to be where we are now for the race result for the championship, at least. Cars still carving lines through the water, heading downhill towards turn 4. Under normal circumstances, they'd be doing 175 km/h, then down to 150, and then down to 85 for turn 6, which is this very tight left that takes you uphill. But in these conditions, the pace dictated by the safety car, everybody just queuing up behind, and that's the race classification, as it has been for quite some time now, and how it looks like it may well end. The wind picking up as well, but with the rain still falling, it's not doing anything to help dry the track, is it? So the team still being warned about water on the inside of turn 5. It's not so much the rain as it falls. Yes, that's a problem, but it's the standing water on the circuit that's a big issue as well. But I don't think anybody wants the series to end behind the safety car, but there may be no choice. It's a season that has had a variety of weather conditions, a variety of race winners as well. If you take the Pro Cup in isolation, think back to Monza, it was the BMW that won of there. Bas Linders looking rather fed up now, and understandably so. Maxime Martin, Marcus Paltelet, the other victors there. That's the number 30 Audi, Craig Wilkins, getting back up to pace. He's had a bit of a moment coming out of turn 5. The Silverstone race, again, rain affected at the start, won by Paltelet, Linders and Martin. Then at Paul Ricard, it was dry, even though we had the odd spot of rain, and that was an Audi win. Ortelli, Mies and Hase. At Spa, an Audi win. Andrea Piccini, René Rast and Frank Stippler. And then Porsche victorious at the Nürburgring, Mark Goossens, Mark Henrici and Xavier Marson. Bas Linders, we have seen how frustrated he looks, as he doesn't look like the cars will go racing. Hayley.
Baz, it's a sad end to the race, but what a great season you've had.
Yeah, it's not over yet, still 9 minutes, and there's still some investigation to do after the race, because there were some irregularities which we are not happy with, which can change the result of the championship.
What are your opinions on racing in these conditions?
Of course, now it's very tricky. There's a lot of water on the track. The problem is this is a championship with a lot of gentleman drivers who don't drive so well, you know, because that's why they're gentleman drivers. So it's a bit tricky. Of course, for our professional drivers, it's not such a big problem, although it's tricky for everybody. So yeah, it's a shame to come to Spain and have this weather.
Thank you.
For what Bas was saying in answer to Haley's first question, we may not necessarily know the outcome even when the flag falls. If he's going to take this to the stewards, and complain about one or two things, perhaps driving standards and one or two other elements he may have spotted, then the story could rumble on. You need to keep tabs on the Blancpain Endurance Series website for the continuation of the story. It may not just end when the race ends. And although, as he said, there are 9 minutes to go, we're down to 8 and change now. And are we going to get a restart? Everybody's trying to find out from the race director, who is really in a very awkward position now. He's called the safety car once because of the rain. The conditions are just as bad, if not worse. What does he do? If he lets them go now, then the safety car period to an extent would have been in vain. And off under the safety car has gone, is that number 12 McLaren, Gregoire de Moustier? I fear it may well be. And that, again, yeah, it is. That's Gregoire's second drama, I think, behind the safety car. We had one in the earlier safety car period for him. And what has that done as far as the class positions are concerned? We'll need to check at the end of the lap, but has that just cost the McLaren a class lead? We'll have to wait and see when they come over the timing line to see where that car feeds back in, but it could have just spun itself out of the class lead. And that, potentially, is just what the race director needed to make up his mind. If people are spinning behind the safety car, it can't restart, surely. If the conditions are that bad, maybe that's the answer. Is he going to keep them behind the safety car for 7 more minutes? Or is it going to be an early checkered flag to the race? Let's wait and see as the cars are almost heading up towards the timing line. And the marshal, who is on the start gantry, was just looking to see what flag he had in his hand. He's now just fled. He's literally running down the stairs to get some shelter. So I think he's had enough. He's off. So the cars make their way up towards the timing line. The yellow lights still flash, and there's therefore no suggestion of an early checkered flag. And in the situation for the Pro-Am Cup, number 12 McLaren, despite Gregoire de Moustier's spin, still ahead in the class, so that's been embarrassing but not that costly. So there's the McLaren, and behind there should be a BMW, number 37 of Andrew Danilou, which is there. So that's your top two in the Pro-Am category. Christopher Hauser we have already seen with a good middle stint in Audi number 1. He's given over to Stefano Ortelli, and it looks like he's about to be crowned the champion. Hayley.
Christopher, current standings in the race, it's looking like you could be crowned 2012 champions. How does that feel?
I mean, at the moment we are still in the race, so we keep the fingers crossed. I mean, the weather now, it's very, very bad to drive. We saw some cars which had some spuns in the safety car. There you see how less grip at the moment is and how dangerous it is to drive. So at the moment, for sure, it looks good for us, but still 5 minutes to go, and we should wait until the end.
It's certainly been a great lineup this year, hasn't it, for the three of you?
Please.
It's certainly been a great driver lineup, having the three of you together.
Yeah, it was a great driver lineup. I mean, everybody was on the same speed, and also the team did always a great job, fantastic, and that's why we are able now to do maybe the championship, but just wait 5 minutes, then we can talk more.
Thank you.
So Christopher Hauser not speaking too soon, but it does look as though the championship's going to go his way. To say, the fact that we've gone so far under the safety car and things haven't really improved does suggest we're going to have to keep going under the safety car. The marshal on the start line is back on his gantry, still with his yellow flag in hand, and the safety car is heading, as you can see, up towards the completion of lap number 91. So in a season that's given us that mix of winners, as I was talking about in Pro Cup, all marshals finding bits of debris around the road. Pro-Am started back at Monza with honours going the way of Ferrari. That was the win for Amos, Petrovelli and Bonaccini at Silverstone, remember, and the red flag comes out. That's it, job done. Championship is over. The red lights come on, the red flag is waved, and there is a championship winning team. The champions are crowned. Stefano Ortelli, Christopher Mies and Christopher Hauser. It is not the way anybody wants to win a championship or to end a race, but the weather conditions and the opinion of the race director added together have made it inevitable. The championship is over behind the safety car under a red flag, and it's not the way anybody would have wanted to win the crown, but it has happened. Team WRT, the Belgian Audi Club, there's Vincent Vos celebrating with his guys. It's been a hard season. The championship provisionally is won by Team WRT for Christopher Hauser, Christopher Mies and Stefano Ortelli. The cars stop on the track, and just imagine the disappointment at Marc VDS Racing. not being able to get a crack at fighting for the crown, despite the fact the car worked its way up into 4th place. But with the safety car coming out and the race not restarting, never getting the chance. The race will not resume. Let's join Haley in the pit lane and hear from a delighted Audi team. Vincent Voss is there, Pierre Giordone is there, the driver's there, Haley is there as well.
Congratulations, Vincent. You are the 2012 Blancpain Endurance Series Pro Cup champion.
Thank you. I think it was a half fight. Unfortunately, the race was stopped by red flag, but I think for safety reason, a lot of cars were spinning, and I think it was the only way to finish.
Yeah, it's been quite the season for WRT. It's been a pleasure to watch you guys racing, and second in a row champions of the Blancpain Endurance Series.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a great season, and winning this championship is fantastic. It has been very nerve-wracking because of all the things which happened, but we are very happy. And also congratulations to the Marc VDS team, because they did a great job, and you know, there was very little between the two of us, so congratulations to them.
Thank you.
Magnanimous Pierre Giordone as he acknowledges the great effort of Marc VDS Racing, and I'm sure that Haley is already on her way down to that pit to go and see a completely different demeanour amongst the team crew there. The championship, which was theirs, of course, they led into this race, and although Bas Leinders was talking about being bundled out of the way, part of the problem started at the Nürburgring with the grid penalty, the 10-place drop. Then there was that difficult first stint. Then the car, although it got up into 4th place, not able, because of the safety car situation, to really challenge afterwards. It's a disappointing way to end the year, yes, but that is where we have ended up, and it's a championship victory to Audi. Well, there, lest we forget, is a race-winning car. The McLaren takes a Blancpain victory, which at Monza, in wet conditions, looked very, very unlikely because the cars really weren't on the pace. But we find ourselves at the end of the year with Hexis winning for the 3rd time at Navarra, twice in the GT1 World Championship, and now in the Blancpain Endurance Series as well, coming home victorious. And so the McLaren team, run by Philippe Dumas, Fred Makovici, Alvaro Parent and Steph Dusseldorp, takes the win, and they will make their way shortly up onto the podium at the end of another fascinating race, but one that kind of leaves not a sour taste necessarily, but leaves you wanting more, doesn't it, with the weather conditions going against us just when it was getting interesting. To have that last few laps with Maxime Martin trying to gain one more place, that's all he needed, and it would have been fascinating to watch, would have been great to see, but the weather conditions are deemed by the race director too bad. Of course, he'll be in contact with the safety car crew and would have been saying, how is it on the track? And they'll say, no, it's still lots of standing water, giving some feedback to help him make that decision. The cars coming into Parc Fermé, saw one or two of the Hexis engineers trying to get into Parc Fermé, being waved away, so they'll have to congratulate their guys over the fence. We've got the top 3 in each class arriving. There's Sean Edwards opening the door of the Mercedes, having finished this weekend not as the winner, but 3rd in Pro-Am, with Oliver Morley on the podium again, and with Steve Yance. And again, if you look at the umbrellas there, you can see just how grim the weather is. The wind has picked up, the rain is still falling very, very heavily. So there is a very happy Fred Makovici, and Alvaro Parent has arrived to greet him. There is Steph Dusseldorp, there's Alvaro, gives him a hug, congratulates him, and very, very happy Audi people in the background, as you can see. Stefano Ortelli adds yet another championship to his illustrious CV, the Formula Le Mans winner. And after the sunshine at the start of the race, it is barely conceivable that rain stops play. So Stefano Ortelli, you could argue, had a pretty cushy stint there. Much of it done behind the safety car. But well done, Stefan. The championship is his. And Christopher Haas and Christopher Mies are there to congratulate him. The top 3 in Pro-Am arrive. Class win for Gregoire de Mustier and Duncan Tapia. The overall podium that they were hoping for, they don't get, but a class win and a good job done too. So Stefano Ortelli, Christopher Mies and Christopher Haas take the championship. Let's hear from the drivers. They are in the pit lane with Haley.
Christopher, congratulations. You are the 2012 Drivers' Champion. How does it feel?
I can't believe it. It's unbelievable. It was just a crime. The last minutes, you know. The start was so difficult to make no mistake. Now we are champion again with WRT. Thank the Lord for that. I mean, I can't describe it. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Stefan, you definitely finished in difficult conditions, but the experience and the young talent has definitely brought the title home, hasn't it?
Together we are doing a good job, and I think they deserve it. You know, it's a big championship for both Christopher, and I'm happy for them. And I'm especially happy that Vincent Vos could retain his title, both title, and really a big claps for the team, because we are champs again, guys. We are champs.
Congratulations, Christopher. You didn't want to quite celebrate a few minutes ago, but now you can let loose. Congratulations. You are the champion for 2012.
It's unbelievable. It's a pleasure. I mean, I can't say more. It's so great to be champion 2012 with Audi, with WRT. I mean, we did everything what we could do, and we did it. So we will celebrate in the evening.
Thank you, guys.
The two Christophers who were the 2009 GT3 European champions, the FIA European GT3 champions, together, and now they are Blancpain champions together as well. Now, let's not forget that there was a race in all of that, won by the Hexis team, Fred Macko, Alvaro Parent and Steph Dusseldorf.
Alvaro, such difficult conditions, but you have dominated the weekend. The McLaren has certainly performed here.
Really good, performed really well. Navarra is a track for us, and you know, great job. This last stint was a bit crazy with the weather. You know, it's super hot here. It's like the Maldives. No, you know, it's a bit boring on the last stint, but great job for all of us. Congratulations to the team and to McLaren and to everyone. Great job.
And Fred, it's certainly been a pleasure to see all three of you driving the McLaren around this track here. And a third win for you guys this year at this track.
Sure, it's great to win together, because we did all the championship, even if it was not on the same car, but with Alvaro and Steph it was great, and it's unbelievable to do this. For the job of McLaren, the job of Hexis, it's great, and it was a hard race, especially at the end, and really congratulations for everybody.
And Steph, what an end to the season. It would be silly for you guys not to come back to the Blancpain Endurance Series next year.
Yeah, it's a crazy end. With the Donington weekend and with this weekend winning everything, it's perfect. You know, it's a perfect weekend for Hexis, for us, and for McLaren as well. It's perfect, and difficult end, but really happy.
Thank you, guys.
So yes, both races at Donington for the GT1 World Final were won by Hexis and by Steph Dusseldorf and Fred Macavicki. And of course, the last round of that championship was red flagged as well because of an accident, not because of weather. And it's happened again here. Sadly, a red flag ends the race. Well, we know the champions provisionally, we know the race winners provisionally. And as the race control vehicle sets off to close the circuit, confirmation, of course, the race isn't going to be resumed. And the race goes the way of the McLaren of Hexis Racing. Alvaro Parent, Fred Macavicki and Steph Dusseldorf take the win ahead of number one, Stefan Ortelli, along with Christopher Haase and Christopher Mies. Third to the number 6 Audi, Frank Stippler, Oliver Jarvis and Felipe Albuquerque, ahead of the vanquished Bas Linders, Marcus Paltela and Maxime Martin. Fifth, Marc Henrici, Xavier Marsan and Marc Goossens, ahead of Davide Rigon, Stefano Gattuso and Daniel Zampieri. Greg Franchi, Mathieu Slaughter, Frank Kettler 7th, Cyril Lamberg, Andy Soucek and Nico Verdonk 8th after the spins that car had, but a good first stint by Verdonk. Gregoire de Moustier and Duncan Tappy come home in 9th and win their class ahead of Andrew Danilou, Jochen Havertz and Simon Canap. Then you've got Peter Cox, Jos Mentum and the start driver Stefan Orsina in the Lamborghini. And as the results scroll through, in 13th overall, the third placed team within Pro-Am, Oliver Morley, Steve Jans and Sean Edwards. 14th behind them, the Dan Brown, Giuseppe Ciro, Gaetano Ardagna, Ferrari. And if you keep going, you get to 23rd, and that's where the third of the Team WRT Audis finished. And much lower down, 98 is the JB Motorsport Audi that in 27th overall wins the Gentleman Trophy class in the race. And number 41 that finished 30th becomes the championship winning car. Robert Hissam and Pierre Hershey, the champions. Philippe Guillauc, who's not done every round, doesn't win the championship because he doesn't have as many points as the other two. But he's played his part in making it a fascinating race once more for all of the three classes with that damage the car sustained. So those are the results, and drivers being cajoled to go onto the podium and get wet for a bit, but they will be up there shortly, and they will be the podiums for the classes and, of course, the champions podium as well. So out come the drivers then, because for third place will be Oliver Jarvis, Frank Stippler, and the man that started in the number 6 Audi, which was Felipe Albuquerque. There for second, the champions, Stefan Ortelli, along with Christopher Haas and Christopher Mies, and then the race winners, Fred Makovici, along with Steph Dusseldorp and Alvaro Parent, make their way on to the podium. It's McLaren, Audi, Audi within the top 3, and the French Axis Racing team scores victory in Spain. So the winning drivers are there, and now the national anthem we should have of Axis Racing as the winning team. I think people are so busy celebrating down below. We get there now. So for Hexis Racing, the Marseillaise is played, and a truly international crew. The Dutch driver Steph Dusseldorp, the Portuguese driver Alvaro Parent, the French driver Fred Makovici, and the Hexis team noisily celebrates its race win. Now the trophy is being presented to the drivers, and it's the drivers for second place that will get the biggest cheer because they're the champions. There for third, Felipe Albuquerque, Frank Stippler, Oliver Jarvis, and Team WRT with 3 cars in the race. One ends up 23rd after a trip into the gravel, and others end up 3rd and 2nd. But it's going to be intriguing to see, as Bas Linders was alluding to, where we go from here, because he was certainly suggesting that he would be going to see the race officials suggesting that things weren't being done by the book by other teams. So there, the champions, Ortelli, Mies, Haase. But does the story rumble on? Are we going to end up with the stewards being busy this evening and the result potentially being affected? We'll wait and find out. There, the trophies go to the race winners. For them, no such dramas, because it's been an absolutely faultless race for Fred Makovici, Steph Dusseldorp, and for Alvaro Parent there in the middle. So the celebrations on the podium, the celebrations below. The Hexis team with the klaxons, as I say, to noisily celebrate a win. I'm not sure they're too concerned about champagne. They're probably wet and cold enough. But the drivers then will make their way to the press conference, and the podium will then be made ready for the next class, which is going to be the Pro-Am category. The drivers having been rounded up, they will then make their way up to the podium. So another different winner within the Pro Cup in Pro-Am, a first win of the season for the ART Grand Prix team, and of course the first time this year that we're going to have McLaren's winning in 2 classes, because it's a win in both Pro and Pro-Am. Just to confirm the race results once more, McLaren ahead of Audi. This is how it is in Pro Cup as well as outright. 4th is the Mark VDS BMW, 5th the Pro Speed Porsche, 6th the Castle Racing Ferrari, ahead of the Vita 4.1 BMW. Then 8th in class is the Poussin-Gignon McLaren. 9th goes the way of the Lamborghini. That gamble to come in and change the tyre pressures, a good one, but with the race not restarting, therefore it loses places rather than gaining them, which was the original plan. So Hans Reiter's gamble doesn't pay off, but it was certainly worth a punt, wasn't it? So that was the Pro Cup, and the winning drivers in Pro-Am now making their way up onto the podium, with the ART Grand Prix team having had a difficult baptism to begin with, really, in the championship, but getting stronger and stronger as the year has gone on. There for 3rd, the Black Falcon Racing team, Steve Yance, Sean Edwards, Oliver Morley and Morley Jr. It's a class win for the ART Grand Prix team there for second place. Out onto the podium will come Simon Knapp, along with Andrew Danilov and Jochen Habets. And the class winners, Gregoire de Moustier and Duncan Tappy for ART Grand Prix. Absolutely delighted, despite the dramas that befell Gregoire de Moustier spinning behind the safety car. They're there, they are winners, and it's another French team running a McLaren that comes out on top at Navarra. So for ART Grand Prix, the national anthem of France is played for the French squad. Just a word about the team that comes home in second place, because you cast your mind back to the Nürburgring. Andrew Danilov was one of the drivers involved in a fairly large shunt in the bronze test session, and there was even a story that he wasn't even going to get into the race. Well, when I saw him after the race, having his dinner all on his own, he was mighty relieved to have raced and said, "I'll probably feel a bit sore in the morning, but yeah, I'm okay now." Well, it's been a good way for him to end his season as well, hasn't it? Bouncing back from that for second in class, his best result. And Oliver Morley is back on the podium, I notice, having returned the junior Morley clan. And got his jacket on, and he's ready to get his trophy as well. So Steve Yance, Sean Edwards, Oliver Morley receive their trophies. And ART Grand Prix are there ready now to accept the team's award as well. So the trophies go to the top three teams on the podium. The champions will get a Blancpain clock, and that should be presented to them in the champions podium, which will come at the very end. So we normally have three, one per class. We're going to get a fourth podium with the championship winning drivers there as well in each of the three classes. There's Duncan Tappy, a delighted man. That move he pulled round the outside to gain a place down at turn 9. Fabulous, fabulous move. And although Gregoire de Moustier could have been a bit of a red-faced driver by the end of this, if those spins had cost them the class win, he brought it home. He did just enough to hang on and to take the race win. It's a shame that it's all come together a bit late in the year, in a sense, for the McLaren teams in general, because that has certainly affected matters as far as winning championships or more races is concerned. But as I say, at the end of the year, it's come good for them, and it's good to see yet a different manufacturer, another name of the 8 brands we've had in this race, scoring a victory here. So Duncan Tappy looks at his trophy. It's been a bit of a lean time for trophies since he was dominating in Formula Renault and Formula Ford before it, and it's to be hoped that the efforts that he's put in this season will interest people in taking him on again for a sports car drive next year. He's not put a wheel wrong in that, and did a very, very good job. And Gregoire de Moustier, who does more McLaren races because he drives in the, or has driven in the GT1 World Championship, he was the one having the occasional indiscretion. But they brought it home, so the top 3 teams leave the podium. And in a few moments we're going to have a rather less busy podium, I suspect, for the Gentleman Trophy, because we only started with 3 and we only finished with 2. But the drivers make their way, headed by Robert Hissem, Pierre Hershey.
Number 1, baby, number 1.
Yes, number 1, says Robert Hissem. Where's Philippe Guilluc? Got 2, because he's not there. But he should be. And it's the Audi that wins the class in the championship, even if not in the race. But it's an Audi that does win the category within this last race of the series, the JB Motorsport car of Jan Brunstedt, Michael Bender and Daniel Roos. A second win of the year for Jan Brunstedt and Michael Bender. Daniel Roos having his first victory because he wasn't at Silverstone when they scored their earlier success. Now, where have they got to? Because we've got the second place drivers there. We haven't got the class winners yet. I suppose, being gentlemen, they are preferring to stay indoors, but it'd be good for the now bedraggled Hissem and Hershey if they could get on the podium, wouldn't it? So where have they got to? The car is in Parc Fermé, so some of them are there. Yes, out comes Jan Brunstedt, out comes Daniel Roos, Michael Bender in the background. And it's a shame we haven't had a few more cars over the course of the season in the Gentleman Trophy, but there are moves afoot to try and boost the numbers for next year and encourage more people into that class. So the Swedish team victorious in Spain. So now the trophies will be presented, and if you think back to Silverstone, the win that JD Motorsport had was a lap from home. Well, here it's been a rather more dominant victory. It's a shame the opposition self-destructed, really, with the damage to the Porsche, with the damage to the Audi of Santilot Racing, whose drivers there, look, Robert Hissam and Pierre Hershey take the trophies. What's happened to Philippe Guillaume, I know not, but he's not there, but he was the man that did the third stint with the damage. Jan Brunstedt there leading the applause. And now the trophies will be brought out for the winning drivers and for the winning team. And Navarra, which for the second year has played host to a round of the Blancpain Endurance Series, last year ran in gloriously hot and sunny conditions. This year, although the rain has now stopped, dare I mention it, it has not helped the race by the grim weather we've had right at the very end. So rain stops play at Navarra. The drivers make their way to the press conference. And a happy Jan Brunstedt, who did the bulk of his early racing in historic racing. He's got a nice collection of historic racing cars, including chevrons. He's got some super touring cars of the 1990s, including a Vauxhall Vectra, a car that was a 888 car that Peter Brock raced at Bathurst at one super touring year. But Jan Brunstedt now concentrating on modern GT racing. Let's look at the championship then, because this is how we stand provisionally in the Pro Cup. The Christophers and Stefan Ortelli win by 3 points over Leinders, Martin and Paltela. Up to third come Mark Goossens, Mark Henrici and Xavier Marson. Andrea Piccini fourth, and then fifth Frank Stippler and Edward Sandstrom and Lawrence Van Tor. Plus Greg Franchi and Frank Kekler with the BMW. Through their efforts, they have the same number of points ahead of René Rast, the Spa 24-hour winner. Matthias Lauda missed Monza, but he ends up 9th ahead of Gattuso, Rigon and Zampieri. And that win puts Dusseldorf, Makovici and Parent into the hunt on 25 points. Alvaro Parent also having scored points within Pro-Am this year, because of course he was involved in that class in the Spa 24 hours when he drove for Von Ryan Racing. Well, that is what Navarra looks like now. It looked a lot sunnier earlier on in the day. And we catch up on the Pro-Am situation. Nick Homerson and Louis Machiels crowned as the champions, ahead of Andrea Bertolini, Eugenio Amos and Alessandro Bonaccini, with Giacomo Petrobelli as the third of those Vita 4-1 drivers, frustrated that their car ended up in the gravel. And the recent good results from Black Falcon helped Oliver Morley up to 7th in the class. And the drivers now that are champions making their way back onto the podium. And I think also Philippe Guillaume has been found for the Gentleman Trophy podium. But Pierre Hershey and Robert Hissam take the championship 11 points up on Michael Bender and Jan Brunstedt. Jocke Mangs doing a part season ends up third. Daniel De Bruyere and Christian Kelders a part season fourth, ahead of Gael Lucidier, Gilles Vanelay and Luc Paillard in the Viper. Paolo Andreasi, Beniamino Caccia and Pablo Palladino, remember, won at Monza with the Ferrari 430. But again, they don't do every round, and so that cost them within the title race. So on the podium, we now have Gentleman Trophy winners, Pro-Am Trophy, Pro-Am Cup winners, and the Pro Cup winners. There are Ortelli, Mies and Hasse, along with Homerson, Machiels for AF Corsa, and the Gentleman Trophy winners are there as well. So Amato Ferrari's team victorious within the Pro-Am class. Nick Homerson there receiving his amazing Blancpain clock. And a delighted Team WRT celebrates. So does Santilok. Audi's winning in 2 classes. And there for AF Corsa, the celebrations begin also for Nick Homerson and for Louis Machiels at the end of the championship season. There's Stefan Rattel, the man behind the series, who may not approve of the weather, but I think he approves of what's been a great year of racing. And whereas it's customary to hurl your bottle of champagne at the team, I don't think it's quite the right thing to do with a rather expensive Blancpain clock, is it? So the drivers do the right thing, hang on to those. Fireworks go off in the background on the pit wall here at Navarra. And at the end of the championship year, there are the drivers' champions on the podium before they head now to the press conference. And the season is done and dusted. There'll be a lot to talk about after the race, that's for sure. And is there going to be any post-race discussion or repercussion surrounding Audi and Marc VDS? Bas Linders certainly suggesting he wasn't happy with the way that Team WRT had behaved in that race. Will he take it further? Is there anything that can be done? Will anything be done? We'll wait and see. But for now, we know provisionally who is the champion and who is a race winner here at Navarra. The Blancpain Endurance Series then at the end of its second year has once again provided full grids, great racing, and we'll look forward to season 3 with the same calendar more or less, down to 5 races provisionally rather than 6, at the likes of Monza, Silverstone, Spa, Paul Ricard and the Nürburgring, all due for a visit from the Blancpain Endurance Series next year. And once again, it's been a cracking season. A shame that the weather, which has now become wetter again, has stopped play and affected the way the championships could have been decided. But for Team WRT, it was a great drive by Stefan Ortelli, Christopher Mies and Christopher Hasse, not just here, but across the course of the season. And it adds up to give them the championship. The pit straight at Navarra was in the sunshine over 3 hours ago. It was busy with people. Now the place is deserted as the fans have headed for the dry, the teams likewise, and the rain still falls, the wind is still there, and the grey clouds hover above us as the teams make their way now to the press conference. And Stefan Mattel with Amato Ferrari discusses life. So the final round of the Blancpain Endurance Series has given us another lively almost 3 hours. It was stopped with just under 4.5 minutes to go. Let's have a look back at some of the highlights of the last round. It all began in the dry, admittedly with a few clouds in the sky, but from pole position it was Alvaro Parent in the Hexis McLaren that got the drop on the opposition. He went storming clear as the lights went to green and the race got underway. Good start made by Grégoire de Moustier to try and urge his McLaren, the ART car, up on the inside. Some cars ran out of road at the first corner, others gained ground. Bas Linders felt he'd been elbowed out wide by one of the Team WRT Audis. He was certainly busy trying to work his way through traffic. And early in the race, Marco Bononomi drove a very wide car, much to the chagrin of Maxime Martin. Linders tried to defend from Mark Henrici. He was also stuck behind Steve Janssen, although eventually they would get past. The Porsche would also pass the BMW. Off early went Eric Dermont, and then we had further drama. A bit of contact between BMW and Ferrari. But it didn't really come to anything. The Ferrari 52, started by Nick Homerson, would have a spin, although ultimately come home as the championship-winning car. Early spots of rain meant the teams were on standby with wet tyres, but that rain didn't come to anything as on track Matthias Lauda forced his way past Grégoire de Moustier. The BMW looked good early on, and then it just faded and faded and faded as Felipe Albuquerque and then Daniel Zampieri worked their way up the order as well. Stefano Rossino went well in the first part of the race in the Lamborghini, but he couldn't repel a charging Nico Verdonk, who went round the outside of him as they worked their way through turn 1. De Moustier just managed to slow down the McLaren in time, having got past Daniel Zampieri's Ferrari, and somehow missed hitting the back of the Vita 4-1 BMW, and it was close. And then Lauda made his own mistake at the same corner, turn 11, a few laps later, went wide, went up the escape road, and that opened the door for the Audis to come past. Homerson got it wrong in 52 Ferrari and had this self-induced spin. He kept it out of the gravel, and ultimately would come through as a champion. On track, Rossino was busy battling against Grégoire de Moustier. The McLaren lined up to have a go at turn 11 and dived through on the inside line. Once the McLaren went past, so the Lamborghini started to drop away. There were more places lost. Duncan Tappy was raring to go, so too Marcus Paltela, who took over from Maxime Martin, from Bas Linders after the first stint. Maxime Martin biding his time for the third stint. Felipe Albuquerque handed over number 6 to Frank Stippler. And Ferrari's coming into the pit lane in various states of repair. 38 Scuderia Vittoria shedding a wheel virtually, and that gave 1 or 2 dramas for the Vita 4-1 Team Italy squad. Tappy found himself involved in a battle with the number 6 Audi. There was a brush between the two of them. The McLaren got bundled out wide, but Frank Stippler unable to find a way past him, and a relieved Grégoire de Moustier saw his car hang onto its place as Michael Mallock had a spin in BMW 36. absolutely got going again with lots of wheel spin as Oliver Jarvis, amongst others, got ready for the final stint, by which stage the rain was coming. That was to the detriment of Zoel Amberg, who ran wide of the number 5 McLaren, and with a jammed wheel nut into the pit lane and into its garage went 57. But with the rain falling heavily, the first safety car period was called, and that meant that the circuit became very slippery indeed for the drivers, and the teams had to work out what to do next about the choice of tyre. So a championship won by Audi, and when the safety car came, that meant that everybody had to line up behind and no overtaking permitted. Frustration for the teams. Gregoire de Moustier had his spin, again proving just how wet it was, is able to recover and carry on and of course win the class. But the safety car situation not ideal for anybody, as the safety car let them go, and although it would be called back for the final few minutes of the race, we did get a few more racing laps in. The Audi team looking increasingly nervous because number 3 Maxime Martin was catching up. Laurens Vanthoor had his spin, that put him off the road and dropped way down the order in the number 2 Audi. Maxime Martin spun 2 in avoidance of a sideways and then spinning Ferrari 71, and then there was more mayhem as cars spun and Mike Wainwright's car got stuck in the middle of the road. The safety car came out once again, and the number 41 Audi became damaged after hitting the stationary number 9 McLaren. That limped to the pit lane, and number 2 Audi was pulled out of the gravel. 41, after the damage was repaired, was able to rejoin. They got the car back onto the pit apron, dropped it down, and then it was able to rejoin the race. The wind picked up, the rain got worse, and the safety car became a permanent fixture to the end of the race. The race director, hoping that conditions would improve, said that he could release the cars, but the improvement in the weather conditions just never came, and that therefore meant that the number 3 BMW was unable to have any chance of fighting that. One more place was all it needed to be gaining. It didn't happen, and so Christopher Mies, Christopher Haase and Stefan Ortelli came through to win, not the race, but the championship. The race, a win for Fred Makovicky, Steph Dusseldorp and Alvaro Parent. The championship won by Mies, Haase and Ortelli. We've had rain, we've had drama, we've had controversy, we've had some great racing across the year. Thanks to all of you for watching. Thanks to all those who have been involved in an ultra-successful season for the Blancpain Endurance Series. And from a wet and soggy Navarra, from Hayley Coxon in the pit lane, and from me, David Addison, it's goodbye for now, and join us in 2013 for more great racing in a superb championship. Farewell from Navarra.